Aw, yeah.
Can we patent the "oh yeah," Dan?
Can we what?
We need to patent the "oh yeah."
Oh yeah! Yeah, everyone. Time someone says it, like at a concert or a sporting event, I'll get a little piece of that pie.
Yeah. We are capitalists through and through.
Give me that! Oh yeah! Give me the oh yeah!
Oh yeah!
What?
We are here. Jansen is with us. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Tavern Talk, a spoiler-filled discussion show based on the epic fantasy series, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan. My name is Ryan, and joining me today are my co-hosts, Brother Dan and Jansen Lashley-Haynes.
Yay!
And I want to say Right. Yeah, thank you all for joining us today, and be sure to use the comment section and engage with us throughout the show. We are watching. But before I begin, I want to say hello and welcome to all humans on all the spectrums. If you have not been able to catch this show live just now, that is not your fault. It's okay. We forgive you. But do know that this is a full spoiler discussion. So if you have not read the entire epic fantasy series, The Wheel of Time by Robert Jordan, please pause the video. Read all 15 books.
Go read them, and then we'll be right here.
Yeah. Come back, and then you won't miss anything. But tonight, we are discussing everything good and evil in the Wheel of Time. And in today's show, we have a great guest with us, and we'll bring her in soon. And again, remember to post your questions and comments. Brother Dan, I think you have an echo going on.
Oh, do I?
I hear something.
Let me try. Correct.
Let's figure it out. It might not be me. It might be you. Anyways, guys, Jansen, how are you doing? Welcome. How's your Sunday going?
Well, first, I'm doing fantastic. I want to say hello to all the Wheel of Time fans out there, to everyone who watches The Way of the Leaf, to our family, to their families, to everyone who's interested in this. And I'm so happy to be here, guys.
Oh.
Have you, Jansen? Jansen is going to be with us each Sunday now in perpetuity. He didn't read the contract very well, but it is a lifetime deal. So get used to seeing Jansen around. He is indentured for this show.
Brother Dan, switch over to your MacBook Pro mic, and then let's move forward. You're cutting out. Yeah, Jansen, I'm sorry. There's a fine print, but then there's a finer print, which is only puppet print. You didn't understand this. Yeah, I understand. Your lawyers can talk to our people, but we won't respond. It'll just be a cold winter before we respond to your. We got you. We got you in shackles. I'm sorry, but we have you, and we can't be happier. Jansen, are you ready to talk good and evil?
Even though you guys have apparently put a domination ban on me, I'm okay. We can do it. I'm ready to talk.
I'm wondering what kind of compulsion has led you to agree to all of this. But yeah, let's it would be like an accidental compulsion, I think is what we're talking about here. But let's not tally forward. We have one of the greatest guests in the history of guests who are going to join us and talk about good and evil in the Wheel of Time. And her name is Wise One Shelley, and she is waiting in the wings. Let's bring her in. Oh, yeah. I did it for you, Dan.
Oh, yeah.
It's obligatory. Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And there she is.
Hello.
Wise One Shelley.
Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being on, Shelley. We are going into the weeds with this topic. It is philosophical. It is deep. And you are one of the most thoughtful, intellectual, deep people in the fandom. So you were an easy choice to have.
I know, but we got to stop all this intellectual deep stuff. We got a super chat. When I get a super chat, I got around. I never know what I'm gonna say. I'm the worst at doing that, but I'm gonna do it for you people. Then, yeah, welcome, Jansen, and a hearty heart stabby stab. Oh, let me turn that off.
Thank you, MaTsDaGger.
That should not be looping. All right, ladies and gentlemen, thank you so much. I keep saying ladies and gentlemen, but I started the whole show off saying humans on all spectrums. I'm done. I got to stop that. I got to like slap it out of my pocket. Come on. Everyone just, hey, folks. Hey, peoples. Yeah. I'm sorry. I'll get better.
You're fine.
You're good.
I'm fine. But I mean, yeah. So this is a really heady topic, and we've discussed where we want to go with it, which is ample, right? There's the gray areas of certain characters. There's cultural influences upon our perceptions. There's so many ways to get into this, but I want to start off by juxtaposing dark friends and white cloaks. All right. And let's talk about it, which is, in a sense, like both, I think, can be considered equivalent in that they are righteous in their own mindset. They're heroes in their own journeys, and they believe in their causes, and they do dastardly things in pursuing these causes. But one is ostensibly for the light and one is ostensibly for the dark. I want to put that out there. That's the stew. You want to add some carrots and potatoes, have at it. Jansen, what do you think?
Well, that's a really crazy question because, when you put those two aspects, those two peoples together, when you go with what the Aes Sedai believe, they can actually fight, all those other, they can't fight the White Cloaks because the White Cloaks are specifically not evil, so I think that some of the things that the White Cloaks do, like you said, are evil, very evil, but they do it in a sense that they're, justified to, make the ends make the means. Lothair Mantelor wrote a book that gave them rules. So, their rules, they believe it's their Bible. That's their religion. And they're all fanatical about it. They don't believe that they are doing anything wrong. And, that's why so many people join them, I think, because, they've lost their way. They don't know where to turn, and they're helpless against dark friends, against the Aes Sedai, against the nobles, against everyone. And I mean, that's even huge because in Amador, the nobles aren't even the ones that rule. It is the White Cloaks. So it's, it's interesting. And then there's the other aspect of the very first dark friend that we see in the Wheel of Time, who not only follows one way, but then changes and is an evil in another way. And I mean, that's in Pat and Fane. I mean, he could be our own a discussion in its own right, because he's probably the most complex individual in the entire series, I think, personally, with all the layers that he has. But I think that most people aren't going to want to hear this, but I actually like the White Cloaks.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's a bold opinion.
It's very bold, but they're some of the only people in the entire series that you actually see learn from their mistakes. And it takes someone to show them that. But they actually admit it. And you see their change into helping everyone in the end. In their own way, but they still did it. So, I mean, they get changed dramatically from the beginning to the end, as far as their leadership, as far as what they're actually fighting for and a reason why.
And what does that say about them as a whole? Like on some level, like that's we can see value in that, because in the end times, we needed that. It ended up culminating in a result we wanted. But like, what does it say about a whole group of people that once the leadership changes and they just like, all right, well, let's go with this guy.
Definitely. And I mean, it has a lot of implications on how we live on our regular real world as well, that some people need something to look up to that's bigger than they are. And if the wrong person has the steering wheel, they can be led astray very quickly.
Well, yeah. Think about what a white cloak is. A white cloak is anybody from any society anywhere who I guess is just kind of thinking a little bit differently from their normative upbringing.
Well, I think that, and let me ask you, Shelley, before I get into what I think. The white cloaks, a standard white cloak, do you think the standard white cloak is an evil guy?
So I have a lot of thoughts. I don't know if they're all coherent or in any sort of pattern.
Okay.
Don't worry, we're just live on YouTube.
Yeah, it's good.
And everyone's watching, so don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Just go for it.
I think the first thing that I think about with that question is there's a question of intent. So you don't become a dark friend to do good. Like, do you know what I mean? People become dark friends they're like, I am going to align myself with this dark thing to be able to get what I want. Whatever it is, power, saving my family, like however good the means are, you are aligning yourself with the dark force. The intent with the white cloaks is I come in to serve the light. Now, with the intent, then that goes with their actions. And I think what worries me with the white cloaks is they are far more effective than the majority of dark friends we see in the series. In my opinion, doing not good things. And so in a way, it's like dark friends are evil. I don't tend to believe people are inherently evil or inherently good. I think that takes away from their responsibility when they make choices.
Yeah.
And so I think with the white cloaks, it's interesting because they do more damage despite being aligned from a good place to the dark friends who are aligned from a bad place, but are kind of incompetent because they aren't as organized as the white cloaks. So Dan, what's your question? I've forgotten it already.
I guess my question was, if you were just the standard white cloak soldier, I guess you answered it, that you came in with all good intentions. You came in to fight for the light. You have no idea what we're privy to, which is the Lord Commander and all the higher the big wigs up in the organization. But the standard white cloak, and I'll transition a little bit. The standard white cloak, I say, is entirely good. I mean, they are dedicating their life. They're leaving their family and stuff to go fight the shadow or whatever the hell. And from what they are told, that shadow starts with the White Tower. So I don't fault them. I think that they were right, man. There was a lot of Black Aja. There was a shitload of Black Aja. Wow. There's like 20% of them were Black Aja. The White Cloaks were right. Hashtag White Cloaks were right.
Okay. Oh, no. Hold on. Brother Dan.
Hashtag.
Dropping the hashtags already.
I mean, it's one thing to hashtag your own quote. It's another thing to just do it live. Are you standing by that?
So, but let me get to this. But they remind me of what we think of the false dragons. To me, a false dragon is not an evil guy. He is seen as being evil. But I'll tell you guys what: if I woke up and I could walk on water, I would think I'm Jesus. Straight up, I would think, "Whoa, I'm doing miracles." And this is what the false dragons are. The false dragons are considered agents of chaos. They're evil. They must be stopped at all times.
Yeah.
What are your guys' thoughts about false dragons?
Well, it all depends on which one you're talking about. Because you can go back to, the current ones that are roaming the earth when Randall Thor is around. And then you can go back to, Guire Mollison and
Guire Mollison!
When you hear the story of Guire, it doesn't sound like he was a dark friend or an evil guy. It sounded like he was a very, very good general, a very good political figure, and what he was doing was right. But there's also one thing about the false dragons that you have to think about first. They all know the prophecies, right? They have to. Well, I believe at some point they actually have to have some, look at the script of it. They have people telling them about it. None of them were born Dragon Mount.
I heard that Guire Amalasan, he used to call himself the Gia monster reborn, and then people were like, "No, bro, it's the dragon. It's not the Gia monster. Like, what are you talking about?" Like, he's like, "Oh my god, I'm the dragon reborn."
Dragon. Like, I think they had to believe that they weren't, and I think that if you think about it, and you're a male channeler at that point in history, in the timeline of the books and the text, you're pretty scared. You're pretty flipped out. There's chaos around you. You have this entity filling you at random times that make you feel like you're on the greatest drug that's ever been made. And you feel like you're that god and you're that. And I think that they all got intoxicated with Sidene and believed themselves to be, the next savior. Because you have to also remember, they were also all going mad at the same when they had this power going through them. So I don't know. I think the taint on the source is an evil thing, right? So all those false dragons before Rand, including Rand, they all had evil pulsing through their bodies through all of this. So call it
interesting. Well, I want to go backwards real quick, Brother Dan. To go back to the discussion about Dark Friends and White Cloaks.
Okay,
and comparing them, I want to bring up my understanding of how I don't know what percentage of Dark Friends are either threatened or coerced into Dark Friendhooddom, but it seems like a lot of the stories we have of Dark Friends are literally their families are threatened with the death that never ends.
Yep.
And if my family if Brother Dan was threatened with the death that never ends, watch me turn into the worst human being just to save my brother. So
no, I get used to it, Ryan.
You get used to it? Okay.
Yeah.
But I mean, it is a thing. It is a thing. Like White Cloaks choose to be White Cloaks, I guess, quote unquote, if we believe there's free choices being made in this world. But Dark Friends may or may not really have the actual choice. They're not going to the mall looking for the Dark Friend store.
Does that happen to anyone who isn't already a Dark Friend? Because I seem to remember in the books it's used to have power over Dark Friends. But I can't. Is there an example of someone who is turned because they threaten their family? Because I think the closest example I think would be Varen, because they figured out what she was onto, and then they were like, okay, you're a bit too close now.
I think a lot of the Black Aja fell into it that way. They were given the choice once they were found out. Once the Aes Sedai found out this is the Black Aja, they said, okay, you can follow us or die. And I think that's the choice that some of them get, other than ones like Leandrin, who actually sought out.
Like, hello, Dark. I'm looking for you.
Yeah.
Hello, darkness, my own friend. I've come to talk to you.
Right, things are pretty straightforward. If you have a fox-like face, you're probably Black Aja.
Definitely Black Aja.
You have a rosebud mouth. You're probably not a good person. And what was the other one? If you I don't know. If you're a skinny innkeeper.
Yeah, done.
And if you drink a lot of brandy, sometimes you might be a bad guy too.
Yeah, well, that's a truism. That's just a truism in life.
I think the Dark Friends, for the most part, are evil. At least selfish. We can say that what they did was for their own gain and for their own personal thing, whether it be glory, whether it be breaking beyond the pattern of the wheel, whether it be immortality. They were doing what they did for their own good.
But that definitely coincides in what Varen said before her death to Egwene, that when she said, I think that the Dark One looks for selfishness in his followers. So yeah, that makes a lot of sense.
Yes. And he kind of like structures his power structure. Like his middle management like tier is just like cutthroat. It's worse than Amazon, I heard.
HR is a nightmare.
So
it's like a mini film, right?
As
Right.
far
There's
as,
just a Jacquard behind a desk.
Nice. All right, what are you gonna say, Jansen?
as far as evil goes, let's branch out a little farther, because there's a lot of things that can be considered evil in the Wheel of Time. But are all those people who are doing evil things part of the shadow? Because there are people who are doing things that are like quote unquote bad. I don't know if you want to call them evil, but they're definitely against our main characters. They definitely want to see our main characters not succeed, or at least not succeed in certain things. Maybe there are certain people that they're not even thinking as far as the last battle. They just care about their own little thing, like a throne, or like a piece of land, or an item, or something that's very, very trivial compared to the last battle. And there's a lot of that in the Wheel of Time, like Colaver, for one, who did a lot of evil things, a lot of bad things, but they weren't necessarily to help the Dark One win. They were to help herself become the queen of Garion.
Right. Ingtar is probably a nice shadowy character as well, who it was a dark friend, but then was striving to redeem himself if he could.
Mm-hmm.
But go ahead.
Yeah, I think Ingtar gave, probably out of all the bad dark friends, I think he gave one of the best reasons why he joined the Shadow. And it took, chapters to do that through the Great Hunt, but he talked about how the world was failing, how no one believed in what they were doing anymore, and how, Malkir was gone, and inch by inch the Blight was moving forward, and his family and friends every year dying more and more. And wouldn't it be better to join the Shadow and have a few of us live instead of us all being wiped out? He
went full MAGA. You're right.
Yeah. I don't know about that, but like, that kind of mirrors. Remind me which Forsaken who chose the Dark One kind of philosophically, because he just saw that.
Ishamael.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. Yeah. So I always felt like Ingtar's motivations mirrored Ishi's motivations in a way. And
what coincides with everything too, because in the prologue of the Great Hunt, when Balzaman/Ishmael was having his meeting, Ingtar was right there.
Yes.
So Ingtar, so Ishmael had an effect on Ingtar, definitely.
Ingtar's OG.
Yeah.
and it's hard to dispute. Ryan and I were talking about the marketing of being a dark friend, and it's hard to dispute that you knew what you were getting into when you have to go to a place called the Pit of Doom.
Oh yeah.
All right, no, I looked into this, Brother Dan. Not every dark friend goes there. It's actually an honorific thing to go to the Pit of Doom. There's a whole power. There's all sorts. It almost reminds you of like the Knights of Columbus, right? So the way the Dark Friends work, they have like little enclaves, and they compete against each other, which reminds me of how the Aes Sedai work, which is inherent kind of struggles structurally designed into the system. So the Dark Friends have like competition designed within each sect, and then the sects compete against each other, and they have certain signs like hand signs or like whatever code words that each dark friend can say to each other. And if you're like a fucking janitor and you're in a sect, but you're super high end, and you go to a king who's very low in end of the dark friend, you can tell that king what to do, and that king has to listen to you.
So it's like old Cully. It's like old Cully.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. It is a very secretive thing. So, Dark Friends, you don't know. I mean, the Black Aja don't even know who the other Black Aja is.
Yeah, but it doesn't foster cooperation. And there's so many systems in the Wheel of Time seem just designed for failure, right? Like they're like so many systems are designed for failure. the White Tower being one, the Black Tower being another. Now the Dark Friend. Once I looked into that, and just it's all just the companion. It took 30 minutes.
That's why I say the White Cloaks are scary because they're more effective.
They are more, yeah.
Yeah,
they are more effective. Yes,
essentially because of their military hierarchy.
So, but we're ostensibly in a world that is bereft of what is it called? A source of morality that is objective. There's no objective source of morality in this world. In fact, there's no churches. There's no creed that tells people what's good and bad. It seems to be based out of, right? Like it's a very fascinating way of developing a world Robert Jordan gave us, because I think how he put it is that there are no churches because what is good and evil is just evident in all the people who live in Randland.
Yeah, they have a creator, and that creator doesn't need worship. So
but they have different kinds of religions, though, and they might not have a stone and mortar church that they go to, but the contrast between people who live in the light and then people who follow the way of the leaf, then people who follow DeeTee, and then people who follow. There are definitely different aspects of how they
live. Creed. There's creeds, but like when you think about what a religion is, like it's like the definition of a religion, right? Like it's like and all that entails, that is absent in the Wheel of Time. It's just not. There are no priests. There's no churches. There's no. There are people who are more or less invested in these beliefs, but it's all right. Why, Shelley? What were you going to say?
So I mean, when I was studying religion, we had an entire course on the definition of religion.
Yes.
Tell me. And just for context, religion is a Western European term, and
Makes sense.
when the Jesuits were colonizing the world. Going around doing their Jesuit thing.
Yeah, just give me friendly advice to people around the world.
Going up to Japan and being like, "Have you guys considered this way?" They would go into the cultures and they would look for the thing that looks like religion, and they would say, "We've used this Latin term. I think it's religio or something like that. Like it's a very clear thing." And they would go around and they would look for it. But if you think about a lot of cultures, priest churches don't necessarily exist, but there's still a system of taboos, beliefs, structures, deities, narratives, all those things that kind of look like religion, but are missing what would be parts to it. And so the Wheel of Time, to me, does have a religion, but it's a fish in a water situation. Like fish don't know what water is. They just live in it so much that they would never look at it and say, oh, this thing is religion, and point to it. They would just exist in this world where there's a creator and a dark one.
That's a great way of putting it,
and
Shelley.
when someone says, I walk in the light, I guess there's, either you walk in the light or you don't.
And they have a catechism, which is fascinating.
That little
which is very fascinating.
By my salvation and light, I shelter in the Creator's hand. That sort of thing.
Isn't that catechism actually even incorrect, right?
Well, I mean, I guess the Creator doesn't have hands.
Yeah.
he has hooves.
His tentacles.
Oh.
What, Ryan? That makes the Creator who?
The Creator who? Oh. Dan, you're online too, bro.
I know, but I'm busy.
All right.
Well, let me get back to the point that you had made earlier. I think, Shelley, it was as far as everything being, I think it was Jansen, actually, everything being from your own perspective, right? So the Kyrian believe that the Black Veiled Aiel are evil, and they are correct. The White Cloaks believe that the Aes Sedai are evil, and guess what? They're kind of correct. these societies based on where you're out, and even with the false dragon. If I firmly believe that a false dragon does not believe they're evil. I don't think Rand did not know that he was born on Dragon Mountain until someone told him. So, I mean, you don't know where you're born. You don't know if you're fulfilling prophecies. And Rand is made a point to study up on all these prophecies. He's getting all these translations. He's like, oh, I think the Kandori said something different in this one part. Oh, hey, Min, keep getting me all them books. I need to know what the fuck to do because it's all premeditated. But the false dragons, I don't think, know this. And again, if I'm walking on water and splitting fishes and loaves, then motherfucker, I'm Jesus. So at least in my head. And so I would, and the show did a really good job, I think, of having.
I definitely agree with you there.
Having Logain be like, man, this is who I am, and I'm gonna do good in the world.
And he said he wanted to mend or rend. Was it rend or mend?
But at the same time, when he said that stuff, he was already crazy.
Correct. Well, and to what degree is Rand crazy? I mean, is it as soon as he starts hearing voices in his head?
I think that the taint affects you as soon as you touch it. I believe that.
Yeah.
Somehow. I mean, it definitely, I mean, at the very least, and when you start channeling as a man, you're sick while you're doing it and feeling good at the same time. You know,
Which, you know, I've been to a lot of festivals.
Yeah.
That sounds like, you know, I've been there and done that. But I feel like I almost want to, like, I don't know if this is going to be unproductive, but like, let's go back to the very definition of the Dark One, because everyone's saying good and evil, and I almost want to like challenge all of this. The Dark One, there is the right, like there's the pattern, there's the Dark One, and cosmologically the Dark One remind me, like the Dark One, like,
so I think I had the similar thought to where you're going, which is, you know, we say the light and the dark, and then we as readers are equating them with good and evil. And the Dark One wants to unravel the pattern. The creator, you know, has the source that creates the pattern. And it's interesting because we assume that the destruction of the pattern is a bad thing. And that's where I think that's where the basis of their morality of good and evil definition come. And assume that because if you want to get really philosophical about it, it's humanity's own self-preservation they're looking at with the Dark One by trying not to unravel the pattern in their own existence. However, you know, in a lot of religions, the end of existence is a goal. Like, that is Buddhism. The idea is, you know, let's get off of the wheel of karma, and, you know, burn off our karma and not exist anymore. And so
I would say that's Christianity also. Like, if you take Christianity logically to this end, it's end times Christianity. It's like, it's Revelations Christianity.
Well, I think the difference with Christianity is after Revelations and the Rapture, humans still exist as individual beings with individual souls, whereas in like a lot of
get sorted into you're right yeah, we just get sorted. It's the great like sorting. I hear you. So, and to that extent, like, Robert Jordan very much specifically made it that the Dark One, again, I'm sucking on the cosmology, but the Dark One was necessary in the building of the world, right? And what, to that extent, is Robert Jordan saying that good and evil are necessary, or are we using these terms incorrectly? Could it be more apt to call it entropy and chaos?
Well,
could it be more apt to call it right, like organizational principles of microorganisms, like of all systems, or is it chaos theory, which is kind of how I've been developing my theory of the Dark One.
See, I think good and evil.
Say again, Jansen?
I think that good and evil, especially in these books, has to be a choice. Because even with the fight at the very end, with everything, it's all about people giving up or not giving up. And you judge, like, you know, because you can say, you know, is the Dark One actually evil? Is the creator actually evil? Well, you can judge that I think by their actions and how they work. You know, like the creator doesn't threaten people to join him. You know,
the Dark One does,
say you're gonna die or your family's gonna die if you don't do this. You know, he get the creator, at least the people who follow the light.
Yeah, but what? Yeah, but what if the Dark One is existing like you know, what was that you you're in a save the world scenario at all times. Oh my God, the nuclear secrets are happening. Am I going to torture this person or not? This is some famous show like 7 or something. Like
24.
What's that, dude?
24.
It's 24. Yeah, it's 24. You got to get the secrets out. Like, what are you going to do? Like, you're compelled to do horrible things to save the world. Like, the Dark One is trying to end the cycle of suffering, and that's the stated goal over and over again. Like this whole system of like.
Well, is that true?
That's a good question.
Is the father of lies?
Or well, that's what he's called. I mean, if you ask him, would he call himself the father of lies?
Well, yeah. I mean, but it's been proven that he is a liar.
InfoWars.
How many people has he told they're going to get immortality, and as soon as they fail in one action, he just kills them?
I mean, yeah, that's a good point. But is the Dark One even the ultimate? Is the Dark One the true counterbalance to the creator? So we hear from Mogideon that she, I guess, has the Dark One's phone number, because she's like, maybe I'll ask the Great Lord if I can give you immortality, so I can torture you forever. Nynaeve, is she? Maybe she was calling bullshit.
She did do that,
but she didn't say. Like, she suggests that she can just kind of talk to the Dark One, and I don't know if Rand, in theory, heard the creator once or twice. We're not sure, or maybe more, with a conversation with Nakomi. Who knows? But the things that were in italics and all capitalized, it wasn't a two-way conversation.
True,
right? So it's not like Rand could have said, like, "Hey, creator, hey, can you give this person?"
I found one bit of proof that shows that the creator counterbalances the Dark One.
Okay.
Now, Jordan wrote, he even said it, Egwene said it, there's always a balance. There's yin and yang. There's something that counteracts every single thing in this book, right? So you have Sadar and Saidin. Then you have the true power. Then you have the power that Rand used in the end. And I think that shows you that the creator and the Dark One actually balance each other out. Because I think that one power came from the Dark One, and then his at the end came from the creator. That's what I thought.
So Rand kind of stole it from the Dark One somehow, or learned it from the Dark? Like, what do you mean?
That there are actually 4 powers. There has to be, right? There's a balance to everything in the Wheel of Time. So if there's a Sadar and a Saidin, and then if there's a true power, there has to be another one. Everything balances out.
Guys, this calls back to that Mercedes-Benz symbol that was in the museum at the Panache Palace. Oh, that's there are only 3 though.
No,
but that's mouth. Yeah.
No, wait a sec.
So I like to conceive of this as in this regards. I do believe that the actions of man can be deemed good and evil because these are inventions of man. These are concepts that man has put on, like it just even by the various, just like the strictures of language, like the fact that we name it, therefore we create it, whatever. But the machinations of the Dark One and the creator and the pattern and how all of those are put together, I don't think like our simple ideas of good and evil make sense. So to say that the Dark One's doing evil things when its drive is to end the pattern, it might not necessarily. We gotta wrap our brains around the idea that this is not inherently evil. This drive to end, like Freud said, every human has like eros and thanatos, like the drive to live and the drive to die within our own human psyche, and that's what creates our motivations to change. And so if we have the drive to like think of the Dark One as just change or chaos.
Well,
Chaos,
I mean,
yeah.
I think that goes to what I was saying earlier. There's an element of self-preservation in believing that the Dark One is evil, because if he unravels the pattern, we no longer exist.
Yes.
And
Yeah,
so,
the things that were comfortable. Yeah. We don't want change, and I do believe that Robert Jordan stated that as each era or each turning of the wheel happens, there is more change than the first turning of the wheel. Like, right? Like he intimated that as the wheels turn, change is more prevalent, which tells me that the Dark One is chaos, and chaos's theoretical goal in all systems is to create change, to challenge systems.
Chaos or the Lord of Chaos?
Good point. Yeah,
right.
well, I mean,
the pattern is where the chaos comes from, right?
Well, no,
the pattern's not good or evil. Remember, Ami said that to Avienda. I think she was the first one to say it. Then Moraine said it to someone. But the pattern is not good and evil. It just is.
All right, Carolina on the couch saying hi to Shelly. Good to see you guys. We need to say hi to chat. It's been a while. We've been getting headstrong into this. We got David Cook. We got Squirrel, Secret Squirrel. MaTsDaGger is always holding court as our mod. Ladies and people of all spectrums. Kev's here all the way from Australia. That's exciting. We haven't seen Kev in a while. Althor's Taint is giving us some hearty Bella calls. We love you all. We do this for you guys. Luke, Ace Sedai, everyone, thank you so much. Please, if you're just kind of watching, feel free to jump in on the chat. This is the friendliest, kindest chat you'll ever participate in. For reals, this community is all encompassing and embracing, like the biggest group hug, like, but not those group hugs you don't want to be a part of, like where your work wants you to do a group hug and you're like, oh, no way, no, this is like you're at a festival, you're knee deep in like some substances and you want that group hug,
and the strangers are just like, yeah, and you're like, yeah.
Just a giant super spreader. Let's go.
It's just vibrating. Yeah.
So,
excellent.
Shelly, I want to challenge you just a tiny bit here. When thinking about this topic and thinking about societies, is the IEO and do they practice evil with Giotto?
Do they practice evil?
Is this peer pressure, this sense of that you have to hold up to this standard? Well, evil might be the wrong term, I guess, but is it good?
I like that you're just arguing with yourself and I get to sit here and look smart.
Yeah, is it good instead of is it evil? Is it good? Is the Aes Sedai society? I'm sorry, the IEO society a good one, morally?
Well, yeah, that's a great question, and we could also just kind of broaden that out to just kind of the cultural norms of good and bad, right? Like the idea of taking a maiden's child and just passing it on and never letting that mother know where the baby is. That seems horrifying to me. That seems like one of the craziest ways to function, but the outcome might work for their society, as in that they are constantly fighting, and you always want IEO on your side, you don't want to fight against them. You want them.
Correct. They are a hard society, but they are entirely xenophobic. If you come into their waste and you are not a tinker or a peddler or Kyrian back in the day, then you are getting stripped naked with like a little thing of water and told to run to the spine, and you're probably not going to make it. You're probably going to die. This is like a fucked up way to die. And it's just because you happen onto their land. I mean, come on, man.
There we go. Yeah. Anthropological relativism. Yeah.
Thank you, Kev. Thank you.
So here's the thing. no society is perfect, right? And so the Aiel have a rigid system of honor and obligation. I would argue that in many of the other societies in the Wheel of Time, similarly rigid systems exist. They may not just be dug into as much. Karianans and their Tyrans and their nobility. Emmonsfield considering everyone is a couple and bad. Like there's all these little unspoken rules in every society. I think the Aiel just speak them. And you're right, it is a harsh society, a harsh place to live. So the rules tend to be harsher. With the example of taking the baby away from the women, every woman becomes a maiden knowing that's a possibility. And she can give up the spear to keep the child. So it's like, that's, I think, not a terrible, like, I don't think that's necessarily the worst thing that the Aiel do. And I agree that they are xenophobic. And that is a common thread in the Wheel of Time. I think many cultures are xenophobic in the Wheel of Time. Tyrants hate Illianers. At first, Emmonsfielders, when the Damani refugees come in, they're like, ooh, look at those dresses. Like, everyone's got their xenophobia in that show. In those books. So it's hard to, like, is Aiel society perfect? I'm not going to, like, I play an Aiel character on TV. I'm not going to defend them perfectly. No, embrace it. This is you now. I think you guys know I'm not like that. But I would say that every society had, like, the Windfinders, the sea folk, like, they threw, like, if the people they threw off their ship can't swim, they're fucked. Like, it's kind of, the xenophobia is common. And I think what's one of Robert Jordan's things, like, one of his big themes is, people should communicate. It would be better. I think one of his other themes is people should not be xenophobic. The world might be a bit better. Because the Aiel could learn from other cultures. Other people could learn from the Aiel.
Yes. Right. Yes. What do you say, Jansen?
I actually think, I have a lot to say about that. I don't think the Aiel were evil, but I do think that, I think that if any group of people could be categorized as Taveran, as a group, by the pattern, I think that they fit the bill. But I also think that, as far as not being evil, I think that they're a very flawed culture. I think they're very hypocritical. Mm-hmm. And I can make an example because, two different examples. They think that spies should be strung up and killed, but they have no problem looking into other people's dreams if they don't know about it.
Yes.
Yeah, Amanda, go try to fuck Rand and tell me what he says in his sleep.
Exactly. And also, I also think they're hypocritical in the fact that, one Carrianan chopped down Avendar Aldera, and now they're all tree killers. On the flip side, a group of Shido went completely against G.E.T.O., and the rest of the Eel aren't taking that as something that they did, but that the Shido did.
That's a good point.
So I think that they're very hypocritical in the way that they view other cultures in the book, because they're almost aloof and think that they can do things that other cultures can't. And that has a lot to do with J-To and a lot of, but there's so many things that you can see. I mean, it's mentioned so many times in the book that they hate spies, but they don't understand. Then why can they look at other people's dreams without them knowing about it?
It's almost like J-To is relevant if you get caught.
Yeah, I think they're flawed. Definitely flawed.
Yeah, if someone woke up and was like, "Hey, get out of my dream," they'd be like, "Oh, I'm sorry, I've told you." But if you don't wake up, it's all good.
All good. Yeah,
definitely.
Maybe. So Avienda, Rand knew. I think, like, Rand probably would. I think Rand figured out pretty quick. He cottoned on that the wise ones were like, "Here's a beautiful woman. Tell her your secrets." Because I think people have been trying that with him already. And I think they all were playing a game that they all kind of knew. I think you're right. And I think that's another theme in the Wheel of Time that we see repeatedly is cognitive dissonance, where we see, I think my favorite character, Nynaeve, is like the perfect example of that all the time, where she like yells, "Everybody stop shouting." Like, it's just I think it's a theme with Robert Jordan is like there's societal cognitive dissonance, there's individual cognitive dissonance, and people's actions will not always match their words. So I guess I'm kind of agreeing, but also saying it's not just the Aiel. I think it's a theme in the larger books.
Oh yeah, I agree.
And everybody knows the wise ones spy on your dreams. I think that's the other thing. It's
let's explore the DeeTee a little bit. I mean, so to Ryan's point, the wise one should, in theory, go and to everyone that every time Ruark's dream gets invaded by some skilled dreamwalker, they should walk up to him and say, "I have toe," and he could maybe have them as Daishan for a year and a day.
I think here's where I think the wise ones justify themselves. I think. And I'm not saying it's right, but I think it's one of those things where they're like, our job as wise ones is to preserve the remnant of the remnant.
Yeah.
And we'll take on toe sometimes to do that. And that's us. And we'll go to other wise ones to deal with our toe. But our job is to save the Aiel, and almost at any cost. And sometimes I think that's how they justify that. It's like, I looked into Ruark dreams now. I think the example, I think they told Ruark Egwene would be coming into his dreams as practice. I feel like that was a consensual thing, but I think that's how the wise ones justify it. Is like their job is to save the world, is to save their people, and they will take on the toe of the negative actions to do that.
I think you're right, but that Ruark did not know about Egwene going into his dream. The very last sentence Egwene says when she's talking about that through her POV is that, and I think he knew it too. So you could be right. I guess that maybe she didn't know that Ruark knew.
I could be misremembering it.
I'm actually saying the actual text, and it doesn't say that he didn't know. It just says that Egwene doesn't know if he knew or not. So you could be right. You could be definitely right.
And I could be wrong. I could be crazy, and I might just be the lunatic you're looking for.
I mean,
when we have these...
go on, Dad. No, I just was thinking, Shelley, you talked about how the wise ones rationalize their decisions. I think this is what we're seeing throughout the books, is this ability to rationalize bad decisions.
Yeah, and everything we've talked about, I keep coming back to Elida.
Yeah.
Like, I think she's like the perfect example of it. She is adamant for the light. And in her opinion, enslaving another human, the dragon, is what needs to be done to save the world. She might not have been wrong.
But she was also very ignorant.
Yes.
Because if she would have read the prophecies and thought about it, she would have known that she was making a horrible mistake.
Hashtag Elida wasn't wrong.
Hashtag power corrupts, though, too. Like, once she became held office, she changed, which is not uncommon for people who are righteous. And that's the other point I want to get into. And we're talking about good and bad in the Wheel of Time. It seems to be motivation. There's no objective good and bad. It's not objectively bad to take your baby and hand it off to the crew. That's not objectively bad. Right, there's no objective basis for morality in the Wheel of Time, and I think that is a fundamental understanding that is fun to play with, because in our world, like, theism believes that morality comes from God, and other people believe morality comes from distinct, very specific places. Look, I feel like I'm flying on this person's head. Hey, all right, I'm over here. I'm charging. All right. Yeah. So in the Robert Jordan's world, though, the idea of morality is obfuscated and obtuse, and it seems to be more about culture and upbringing and necessity. And when we get down into the world of POVs, that's when we start to hear and really experience motivations. And so I think it's still fun to I want to carry on the conversation, but in my mind, I am parsing this off into two parts: humans, good and bad, it's fine. Good and evil. Those words match, but when we get into cosmological things, I think I'm going to be trying to think of it differently. But I don't think that. I think they're separate because I don't think human actions are I think they're separated from cosmological understanding. So yeah, let's just go on. In my mindset, like humans are doing good and bad, and the pattern and the dark one are doing something entirely different.
I think that's probably true. I also think, I mean, I always think weirdly, but I keep thinking of the Robert Jordan aspect of making yin and yang and having an opposite for everything. And it's like there are two distinct different kinds of evil in the Wheel of Time. One being the dark one, the other being Isam, the force from Shadow Logoth that was, Padding Fane, that was the other guy. And I kind of think, and I always think, what is the opposite of Isam? What is the opposite of that entity of like evil? And I'm trying to think, what is the other side of good? And is it, I keep thinking, is it the White Cloaks?
Whoa, that's funny. My thought was going to Egwin. Specifically because I think of Pattern. This is a whole nother discussion, but I think of Pattern Fane and Egwin as exhibiting both the ability to, through their own sheer will, level their shit up. Yeah. They level themselves up through will, and I don't know if there's like a will magic in this world. I've heard someone speculate that, and that's really kind of honed my thoughts into like specifically Egwin and how she's able to just do things. And in the end was able, I think, even best a Forsaken just like do a staring contest, like crumple her with her will. So I think of Pattern Fane and Egwin as being able to like level themselves up through
well, there's
will.
Also a good entity, because I also considered Galad being Pattern Fane's equal in goodness as far as badness. He is Galad, whether you want to believe it, power in this book. He is a force.
Oh hell yeah. He's he's all over the books. Yeah.
Jansen, I thought you were gonna say Gawain, because Gawain's the only character that puts on rings and becomes a superhero.
Yeah, I think Galad is a way more powerful force than people think.
But I like the Galad thing. The interesting thing about him as opposed to Fane, though, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, but you see Galad starting to question. And he changes, right? Like he goes from rigid to like, ooh, maybe
he does. That's growth, though. That's growth, not like a change for the worst, or he was growth that he changed with, which was essentially good. I actually that's one, and he's probably one of the biggest reasons why in the beginning of this I said that I really like the White Cloaks. He's a big reason why. I think the stakes that his character has, and I'm speaking of this specifically as an actor, the stakes, if someone wanted me to play Galad, first of all, I'd be extremely flattered.
Yeah.
But secondly,
awesome.
I would be excited because of the stakes of that character and what he truly believes in, which is absolute goodness and absolute righteousness, absolute goodness. And he doesn't do anything to the point where people are angry at him for being so good. So it's like he knows what's right and what's wrong no matter what, and he's going to do it, and he will die for that.
But he's done that shit since he was like 12. I mean, this is just who he is. He is as authentic as you can get.
But is he always doing good though?
Always, I think.
But is his output always good?
His output. Let me think. He definitely believes so.
Right? Like, yeah, I know he believes that. Yeah.
But every Saldam thinks that they are doing good as well.
That's true because of their upbringing, because of other. See, that's a whole nother thing. The Shanchan, and you, like, we had another guest here a few weeks, maybe a month ago, that the problem with the Shanchan is, as good as their intentions are, they're still evil because they believe in slavery, and even when they find out, which that they're wrong, they still try to say that it's still right because they still want the power that enslaving people comes with. And that's one of the reasons why I know some people out there are going to hate me for saying this. I have a lot of problems with Tuon.
Okay, I do as well.
Mm-hmm.
However, so let me ask you, Jansen, do you think that her decision at the end to not join with Rand's forces, was she... So her prophecies were skewed. They were dealing with fucked up shit, right?
Yeah. Like, we have to remember, their prophecies were bastardized by which Forsaken?
Summerhog.
Thank you. I'm the worst. Yeah. So I mean, like, to that extent, like, how can we even
do we fault her for her decision there?
Well, she's also a victim of her family and her upbringing, which was, well, as you're growing up, even though you're 9 and 10 years old, we want you, as your mother, I'm telling you, try to kill your siblings. I want to know which one of you is stronger. They had some pretty, and their culture is pretty odd. And in fact, I hope we do have a discussion one day to talk about, what happens after, in the books, because I think that the Shan Chen have no other destiny but to fail. Too many people know their secret, and what they're doing is wrong. Lyle Shipless is going to be still out there telling everyone, and moving her philosophies along, that they're living a lie. And I think eventually Tuon might even get curious and tap into the source.
I wonder how the show is going to handle her as well. I mean, so Matt marries the chief slaver in the world.
Yes.
And that is a very uncharismatic situation to be in. Matt is a beloved character. Tuon is mostly indifferent or slightly not liked, but I think that if she didn't have the Matt association, then she would be the number one hated character of all time.
Hey, Brother Dan, do you think that's why Barney Harris left the show? Do you think Barney Harris left the show because he read ahead and he's like, uh-oh.
He's like, oh, man, I got to
get it. Do not like.
Yeah.
I've heard some rumors about that, but I don't know. Well, I don't think we ever screwed.
I mean, Robert Jordan's drawing, I feel, some pretty clear parallels with the Shan Chen and the slavery issue, right? Like, because people used Christianity to justify slavery for thousands of years, and they're justifying, they're using, again, the world religion or the world beliefs to justify it, in that, people who can touch this power should be controlled, blah, blah, blah. So, I mean, Robert Jordan's drawing some pretty clear things there. Tuon, I think, and this goes back to the thing where I don't like calling people pure evil, because she does make a series of choices, and when confronted with conflicting information, she chooses to continue this because it benefits her. And it's the same as like when you were talking earlier, Brother Dan, about like the intro level white cloak. None of us accept as a justification anymore. I was just following orders. And so it's, once they start seeing these things that they do and get exposed to different points of view and decide not to change their mind, that to me is when things start getting really evil. It's like if you're exposed to someone's humanity and then choose to continue to inhibit their life, existence, freedom, whatever, that's when you start becoming really evil. Slavery in and of itself, bad institution, the whole Inquisition that the white cloaks are representing, it's not a good institution, but once you get that different point of view,
the Shan Chen is a little different, though. You are dealing with women who are weapons, and this is something to be feared. This isn't like necessarily just based on inferior race theories or shit like that. This is they're collaring people that they think will be we've seen what I can do. They cause lightnings and all this shit. Everything.
Yeah, not just weapons of mass destruction.
Weapons of mass destruction have to be controlled, and and we have a parallel to that based on racism. I don't believe that this parallel necessarily carries with the Shanchin, even though their method is a literal collar around the neck.
And it's brutal in every way. Like their motivation is not their motivations are again like righteous.
Yeah, it's more like how they interpret the X-Men in the comics, and people are racist towards and things like that. I think you're right there. I do think, though, that with the Shanchin, I think that their saving grace for me in the books were Lilwyn.
Yeah.
Her entire growth, her arc, her character arc, I think helped give them a little bit of shining light that they can be changed. And in a smaller aspect, Olivia as well. Even though she's just, probably the ultimate weapon of mass destruction. But you definitely want Olivia on your side.
Yeah.
She's a beast. But it's, with Lilwyn, we saw how much change could become of a Shanchin character. And by the end, she had pretty much denounced him, even though she said she'll always be one of them.
Uh-huh.
But they're living a lie. And, she was changed.
Right, Eggy-Anon is probably a good example as well. We saw her actively talking with Nynaeve and
well, that's Lilwyn.
Yeah, Lilwyn.
Lilwyn.
Yeah. That's the same character. Yeah, pursuing the truth. Yeah, the same.
Okay.
Yeah.
Dan, can I ask you a question? So, should we, by the logic of the weapons of mass destruction, should we keep nuclear physicists as slaves?
Some countries do.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah, probably. Probably. Yeah, and I think that's where it's an interesting thing, right? Because I also have a yellow Aja. Like, they have the power to heal, build beautiful structures using the one power. And so it's, I think you can rip apart this analogy. I'm totally fine with that. It just popped into my head, so it is not a fully fleshed out thought.
Uh-huh.
But if you think about it, like, nuclear physicists have the power to create weapons of mass destruction, but also create like quantum computing and really like do some amazing medical stuff. So
I will say that there's also a lot of the top nuclear physicists are hired by the government, sign these contracts that they're not allowed to share this information with anyone. When they travel to other countries, they are probably monitored. There is a bit of this. You got to control your intellectual property as well as I'm using the wrong term, but
I know what you mean.
They're not entirely free.
No, Einstein
himself. They have a written collar that they sign several times to get security contracts and all that stuff.
Sorry, Jansen, what did you say about Einstein?
Yeah,
he fled his country to come here.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
He's the same thing. He was. It's they definitely, when people have that kind of power in their minds, governments know that and they respect it and cage it. So, I can see why. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Right. And in World War II, we did not necessarily try these people. What we did is we employed them, and that helped us get to the moon.
Hey, Lockheed Martin,
and we locked in people in camps.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
this is fun. This is a fun discussion, guys.
I'm great at parties. Let me tell you.
I'm great at parties too.
Speaking of parties, let's move. I want to take a second. We have a new segment I'm going to bring in called Artist Corner. I'm going to do here's a transition. Yeah. Artist Corner, right? Every show, every so often, I'm going to highlight a new artist who has allowed us to work with them and use their art in our show. And let's talk about Constantine Skeeterish. That's right, Constantine Skeeterish. He is an artist based out of LA.
That looks a little like the janitor at Hogwarts. What's his name? Filch. That looks like a Myrdral Filch.
I love the double teeth.
Doesn't it?
That's
Yeah,
awesome.
the double rows of teeth. I love the veins. We did not see veins in Amazon's show. They got to add more veins. Here is the worst guy at the party.
An all too human face, right?
All too human face. Yeah, this guy, he's just like...
Constantine's killing it, man. This is awesome.
We'll just call him Narg.
Ooh. What I really like best about this is the coloring he chose. Like, it really... Go back to the other one. So here he's kind of more inflamed and that lit, but in this other one, he's kind of more blue and shadowed because it's backlit. Nice.
And then here is a contemplative Trolloc.
Yeah. That Trolloc is sitting on a toilet having deep thoughts.
Yeah, this Trolloc is kind of feeling bad about all the things he did during Winter's Night. He's like, man, did I really? Like, I told myself just 1 or 2 kids, but I went for 5. All right, so
Just look at the horns.
Right, not effective. How are you going to spear anything with those things?
Oh, that one is kind of wonky, but the other one seems pretty savage. Maybe the other one's like to hold like a soup spoon.
I'm trying to understand this shoulder plate right here. Is this like a little like a pad over here on the shoulder?
I think that's the pad that's supposed to have their clan signature on it, like the bell.
Okay, so that's okay. That makes sense. This is not protective in any way. It's just like a. Okay, that's amazing.
Narg represent.
Skeeter, Narg existentially conflicted.
Right? Yeah. Narg's like, what have I done?
Yeah, so we got a couple questions in the chat, or at least one right here, regarding Fane, and this is going to springboard into a theory I have that I want to run by you guys. So the question's from MaTsDaGgerX. It says, did circumstances make Fane so vile, or was it a choice? Now, when we're talking about Fane, we've heard descriptions like he entered the pit of doom and was distilled of all he knew and all he was, and then remade there. Let's talk Fane a minute here, guys. Shelly, do you have pity for Fane?
Not really. And if I'm wrong, always correct me, but I feel a little bit like
Okay, right.
I don't think what happened to Fane could have happened entirely unwillingly, if that makes sense. Like, I don't... I have to... So if I want to be, like, internally consistent with the cosmology of the Wheel of Time, I have to believe that there's some element of choice available to people.
Yes.
Otherwise, like, you know, like, because that's the beauty of Ingtar's arc, is at the end he can kind of say, I'm no longer with the dark, instead of the dark one coming down and being like, no, you're not. Like, get back in line. Like, so I kind of have to believe that Fane has made some choices. Maybe didn't necessarily know what he was getting into, but was like, sure, becoming a hunter sounds good or something like that. So I don't know. This is just me and, like, making myself feel good about the Wheel of Time. Not necessarily the right thing.
Well, like you mentioned Ingtar. So he renounced his dark frienddom. Does that count in the afterlife?
Is there an afterlife?
Or did the contract that he signed to become a dark friend, whatever the heck it was, even though he's like, they're like, tell him I died clean. They're like, may the mother's embrace take you. You know, this stuff, he died heroically. Is he still bound to the Dark One? So here's my theory, is that the Dark One that we know is not the complete anti-creator. It is a demigod that is the Lord of the Grave. It is the Lord of the Dead. It controls afterlife. It controls. That's why the beginning we had Karri Thor, Ransaw. He was able to pull out anyone who's dead. However, we do have an evil that is beyond the Dark One per se. We have several examples of an evil that the Dark One just doesn't have any control over. And so how can this be the all-consuming purveyor of evil if there's evil that it is beyond its grasp? I believe that this Dark One is just a demigod.
The Dark One's a demigod. Interesting.
I think that up until a point, yes, Fane had a choice to join the shadow, to be a dark friend, to, for everlasting life or whatever it was that drew him to the shadow. But once he stepped foot into Shadow Logoth, Mordith changed all that. Mordith was willing to jump and attach himself to the first human being that he could to get out of there. And it just happened to be Pat and Fane. And when
Matt at first, right?
Yeah, it was either Matt Rand or Perrin, anyone that he could attach himself to, because they all met him together at the same time. But once Mordith touched Pat and Fane, and if you remember, they talk about Mordith's evil being an ancient enemy of the Dark One. So they've been at odds for a very long time.
What does that mean, though?
Right?
Yeah, it was. That's the reason why I think him and Mashadar and everything together was a huge, it was a great merge of bad guys, I guess you could say. But I do think, and he was ordered killed by the Dark One, or at least by Balzamon Ishmael, at least 3 different times. And they were all failures. They wanted, and they called him vermin. Even the Dark One called him vermin. So
Mash and Shin is a weird one in that the ways were becoming corrupted because of the taint that was inside in when it was made, right?
So did Mashadar, which was outside, and Machin Shin, which was inside, did they merge?
Within Fane, I think so, yes. Yeah. But they are both these evils that are beyond the Dark One's understanding.
Yeah.
Which makes me think that there is an other iteration of evil that is even beyond what the Dark One knows.
Yeah.
Well, it kind of fits with the idea that the Dark One is not evil. It's like you cannot put that human term onto the Dark One, which is there's the pattern, there's the Dark One, right? Or like we're talking about the cosmological, like no one's right.
Well, Ryan, would you say that the taint was an evil act?
Was the taint an evil act?
That's a really good question.
No. Here we go. Like I don't know. No, if the Dark One's intention is to still break the wheel of time, and the Dark One perceives the wheel of time as an entrapment on humankind into a predetermined world where
it was suffering. At the very beginning of creation, right?
Say it again.
So the Dark One was put in the prison by the Creator at the very beginning of creation. So that being said, were they equals at the time of creation, and the Dark One didn't think that we should have even existed?
Well, what does put into prison even mean, though? I mean, so is the Dark One even just a manifestation of the Creator that is his dark side that he is repressing?
Well, they had to do into something to get him out, though. So he was in some kind of confinement because he was put back in.
Correct.
Yeah. So
there was a physical spot. Yeah.
So now, Do you think that was the first time that ever happened, or is in every turning of the wheel the same thing happening?
No, we got to remember what Herod Fell said. It's happened before.
Right. So yeah, like. So what does that even all mean then?
Kelly, what are your thoughts? Let's get in.
Shelly, Herod Fell. Go on. Herod
You guys
Fell.
are getting into some pretty technical Wheel of Time stuff. It might be a bit.
No, that's fine. I mean, let's just go.
You possibly regret inviting me on the show now, being like,
no, well, never.
Why is one Shelly on your brain here?
I mean,
never.
so
You brought more than I thought.
Think about the Dark One being, as soon as creation happened, the Dark One is imprisoned for all this time until they found this source, the more or less the tree of knowledge. They ate from the apple, and as soon as they bit that apple, everyone started like getting more and more evil until they had to like seal it back up.
I like your Edenic archetypal imagery there.
Thank you.
Yeah.
What do I think about that? I think it goes back to the in this cosmology, there's an interesting level of self-preservation, right? So, like, is the Dark One's counterstroke evil? He's trying to self-preserve. Is that any different than what the Creator was trying to do, what humans are trying to do?
Right.
I think I agree with Ryan to somewhat that it's the putting the words evil and good on it are really difficult.
Yeah.
Problematic. Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
Yeah, because it goes back to that self-preservation. Like, we consider something evil that's going to, let's say, interrupt our ability to continue to exist, which is exactly what. So, is a snake evil when it bites you because you attack it?
No, you knew I was snake the whole time. Remember that whole parable where the
Brother Dan
rows across the snake's like, oh, and he like saves it and he rows it across the river.
Yeah,
I thought that was Ricky Tikki Taffy.
He's like, you know, I was a snake the whole time. No, Ricky Tikki Taffy was the mongoose that ate king cobras. Ryan.
Yeah. All right, you're right. Hey, Brother Dan, to the point you're saying, though, when you are talking about... Okay, I'm going to try and remember the point I wanted to get at. I might have just lost it with my Ricky Tikki Taffy joke. Damn it. I really liked my Taffy joke, and I lost my main point, which is really profound.
Is the Dark One... Is a snake evil?
Creation.
Is a snake evil for counter-striking?
That's funny you say that, because there is a story out of the Bible that they found that they tried to get rid of that says the snake was actually good.
Is that like the book of Timothy or?
Yeah. Well, there's the one about Lilith as well.
Yeah, there's also been some amazing like feminist reimaginings of the story of Eden that basically say like Eve was the one who brought knowledge into the world.
Yeah,
and without knowledge, how do you? Like, without the ability to tell apart good and evil, how do you make good choices?
He brought free will, too, like, apparently. Yeah. So,
and then what did God do? Painful births for the rest of your life.
I'll take it from the wise one perspective. We broke a rule because we had to give people what they needed, and PMS is just us eating our toe.
Yes.
Maybe
that's longer than a year and a day, though.
All right,
maybe that'll help me next time I want to eat 7 bars of chocolate.
But how dare you, Ryan, for thinking that a woman is not strong enough to bear the pain of birth?
Oh my gosh! I was born. I was a huge.
I'll make sure the next hot flash my wife has, I'll say, "Hey, this is you're just fulfilling toe."
My pre-ego was like,
you should try that, guys. I think this is
I'm sure that'll go really well.
That won't work.
Yeah, I think this is a joke only I can make.
Yeah. You'll be up in front of the women's circle real fast, my friend.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So, Brother Dan, if the Dark One was in prison at the point of creation until the second age wise Aes Sedai, men and women, bore it into it, does that mean that our age that we're currently living in is Dark One free?
Wow! I'm looking at evidence before me, and I have to say no, Ryan.
I'm having a hard time with that one, but yeah, what do you think, guys?
We've already opened the we've already opened it and it's flooding in. I would say like probably back in 1920, somebody drilled a hole.
Yeah. With McCarthy.
So where was our Paradison?
McCarthy was Bilal's mom, but then he died and came back as like Kevin McCarthy. Okay, I get it. It's all working.
I mean, Paradison. Have you ever seen? I mean, what's it? Jerusalem. Have you seen what's happened to Jerusalem over the past 200 years? It's a pretty good Paradison.
Yeah, I watched Democracy Now! I watched what's happening in Jerusalem yesterday. It's horrifying.
Yeah, it's
horrible.
I mean, weirdly enough, throughout history, Jerusalem has always been a sticky point.
Yeah, that's never been the peaceful.
Yeah, great place to put our embassy. really, like, why not just, really thoughtful.
Let's send the Grays there.
Yeah, great idea, guys.
The Grays would look at that and be like, well.
All right. Yeah. Speaking of gray, so I think that if I were like an empath and I was like gonna close my eyes and like breathe deeply, I think the word that would come to mind when I summarize this entire show so far, it would be the word gray.
Right, Ryan. So I think we should go through specific characters. And maybe so I want to ask our two friends here. All right, so do my woke little eyes, the way that they discipline kids in the Two Rivers is abusive, and especially Nynaeve in her role as Wisdom walked around with a wampum stick. She walked around with a beaten stick. But she also beat up adults, just kids too. And the other
wait, Jansen, wait,
old men and kids, yes.
Yeah.
Would if Nynaeve never left the Two Rivers and stayed on her angry track that we meet 24-year-old Nynaeve, would we consider her evil as a heavy-handed Wisdom?
Well, would you consider Lenny evil?
Lenny, I don't say corporate punishment.
Did Lenny raise her hand to anyone?
Yeah, I think she had a heavier hand than Nynaeve.
She had a
heavier.
She spanked more days. She spanked more days' mom. She spanked Elaine.
Oh, was she a big spanker? Fuck.
Lenny,
scared of her.
Jansen, the difference is Lenny was hired to raise these girls. She had authority over them.
Well,
Nynaeve is just hit and send buoy. She's hitting.
She was voted in by the women's circle as the Wisdom.
So that means she can just beat the heck out of people.
Well, she is the Wisdom.
All right. Well, I mean, would
a 50-year-old Nynaeve, would we consider her
Brother Dan? Yeah. No, that's a good question. But let's go back first. Actually, let's talk about the treatment of our favorite little kid,
Ewan Fingar.
Yeah. So, how readily did the adults and the 20-year-old young adults just swing?
Yeah, they tried to beat the crap out of him every time he spoke truth.
Sen Bowie tried to hit him publicly. He rolled out of the way like a ninja.
He was sprier than even Sin Bowie and never got hit. He was dodging, and
because this was a reflex from getting smacked around. He knew to look around every time. He's like, "Hey, he's a stranger in town," and he's looking behind his back because he knows that Matt's going to just box his ears.
So let's.
Guys, did you guys know that Lenny with the two N's and an EY is the dark one, but Lenny with an I and one N is the greatest character in Wheel of Time?
All right, go on.
Let's not be spelling Nazis. So let's think about this. So corporal punishment. It's only in the past 50 years that research in North America has begun showing that corporal punishment does not work and is detrimental to kids. And we know from research that kids who do well in spite of being spanked or corporally punished, not because of. So this is clear research that's only been coming out in the past 20 years. So if we take when Robert Jordan grew up and was writing, corporal punishment was a pretty common thing. And, in the Bible, which Robert Jordan wrote, they have spare the rod, spoil the child.
He wrote the Bible?
Well, sorry, which he read.
Okay.
I'm not defending corporal punishment. But here's the other thing. Ryan, you'll know more about this than me. With intergenerational trauma, you learn from the previous generation how to deal with those things.
Right.
And so when all you have is a hammer, everything looks like a nail. And in the series, that's what they have. So would we, as people who live in the world we live in with the research we have now, think Nynaeve is evil for spanking her kids? Probably. Would she be evil within the context of the world? Probably not. I think she's just angry and, doesn't have good tools to deal with her anger.
I think she's absolutely right. And I think that in the age of legends, they would have thought the exact same thing.
Really? Okay. So I think that behavior is unacceptable. I mean, she is shitty to wait staff. She is not a good traveling companion. She is just a miserable person that I think that if she held her position of power in that village would have stayed regressed, angry, and fearful. For how long does she live? 300 years? Oh, man.
700. Well,
but 350.
350 under the oath.
Because she finds land. If it wasn't for her
I
traveling,
disagree with you, Dan. I don't think she changes just because one of the reasons I think you and I have talked about Nynaeve before. One of the reasons I love Nynaeve, and like Jansen, to what you said, if someone told me to play Nynaeve as a character, her arc is what gets me.
That's insane. I mean, it would be awesome.
Yeah, she's one of those people who is forced to face her cognitive dissonance in a way other characters in the books aren't necessarily. Like, she's the one who has to, she learns to bite her tongue. She doesn't do it well.
She had to grow harder than everyone else.
She has to grow so much harder, and I don't think it's because of Lan. I think some of it. Or
she had to grow less hard in a way too, though.
Yeah, she had to get a bit softer too.
So that's what I'm saying. If she had not been able to leave that village at all, it would have been a horrible place to live.
Yeah, but can you judge a person on the ifs of their lives?
Also, do you want Nynaeve Almera as your wisdom or Days Conger as your wisdom? You got to think about that too. How was Days?
The whole thing is just shitty that this woman can just walk around beating on you,
brother Dan. Okay, it's okay. I know. Yeah, we don't like it. She's it's an evil custom. Brother Dan, first 2 chapters on Nynaeve, you just gotta there's many more chapters.
There's so many chapters, but she's still horrible.
All right, so
she has to burn.
When we left off, we were discussing the Shan Chan, and we were discussing the Aiel. I want to ask you, who would you rather be invaded by? If you're a citizen, you woke up, you're making coffee, and you're like, oh no, I'm being invaded. Would you rather be invaded by Shan Chan or Aiel?
It depends on what your profession is and who you are, I think.
Oh, if I'm a blacksmith, the Aiel.
Yeah, I mean, well, that's what the Aiel, but, it also depends on if it's the Shido or if it's one of the other 12 clans. Mm-hmm. And because if it's the Shan Chan, if you're not nobility, your life is pretty much the same.
Right.
If you can't channel.
Yeah, if you can't channel and you're just a regular dude or a lady, you just got to say the odes and go about your life. With the Shan Chan,
you're right. Yeah.
Anna showing up. If you're an able-bodied person between the age of 16 and 70,
well, thank God I'm not. You're right. I work hard to not be able-bodied. Just kidding. No, I hear you. No, okay, but I don't know. The Shido and all that. Can we kind of take them out of the equation? Because I feel like they're just rogue in every way. I don't feel like they represent Aiel.
Well, are the Shido evil though? Let's go into that. I mean, so we have Couladin, but the rest of them. I mean, Couladin has the dragon marks, guys.
And he's super cool.
A guy who grew up in the waste. This is a guy who you know. What do we fault? Do we think that they are evil?
Wait, say Jansen, what's that?
Two Shidos who were dark friends. One admittedly so that Matt killed his girlfriend. But
yeah, Melindra.
All it Couladin to actually deal with Asmodean and Kadir and everybody, he had to be somewhat part of the shadow, right? I mean, he knew everything that he was doing was a lie. It was all bullshit. You know, he knew he was essentially, I mean, Couladin is essentially the Wheel of Time's Donald Trump.
Oh!
I always thought that was a lie.
Hey, actually,
bring that out, but politically, everything was a lie. He had an entire nation of people following him, believing that lie.
Yeah.
He died. Some of them still believe the lie.
Yeah. No, and then we have suicide bombers at FBI Fieldhouse. This is crazy.
Well, to your point, also, Jansen, we also have Masema, the prophet.
I believe in Masema, and this is going to be a weird thing.
I believe. Oh no!
He was a victim of Viren and went crazy by it. I think he went mad.
Okay,
yeah. Jansen, don't make me feel bad for Masema, because he is like, he's the character. Like, when people are always like, if you're adapting the show, what's the one plot line you would cut? Masema is always my plot line I want cut. I cannot stand that plot line. Unfortunately, then they went and made him hot, which not fair.
Fair.
He's not going to be hot in the show.
I don't know. Look at what they did to Valda.
I know Valda, but he's not Masema. Either they made him like that, so he's like that, and they're going to drastically change him.
Yeah.
You know, because, you know, you see the picture of his, I mean, yeah, he's a good looking dude.
He's going to go full John the Baptist.
You know, he has a scar on his face in the book. He has fought Aiel through his entire life, taken scars by them, so he hates them. You know,
and ladies like a few scars.
That's a great comment, DK.
Yeah.
I chased him away, but
yeah, there's a difference between those two, though, because I do believe that Pat and Fane being in the vicinity of people changed a lot of their direction.
Yeah.
I think he did that to Pedro Nile, and I definitely think he did that to Elijah. He made Elijah go even crazier. Because if you remember, after he left the White Tower, Elijah started doing all these crazy things, like making her own palace and you know, all stuff. So I think that the taint that Pat and Fane had on people was huge.
So is you calling it taint? Like, I want to ask you, like, if you really kind of burrowed down into what exactly he was doing.
Well,
was it taint, compulsion, like influence? What?
It's the dagger he holds. Remember how even Moraine said, "Oh, it's catching. If you have that dagger, it can turn people." And Pat and Fane, you remember when he showed up to meet Dane Bornhold with his contingent of White Cloaks, they weren't like that at first. But the worst White Cloaks you'd ever seen. They were disgusting. They were dirty. Their cloaks weren't white. They didn't care anymore. And by the time he had finally left, they had thrown their cloaks off, and they were just his Dinsians. So, you know,
did he have the dagger? I'm sorry. Did he have the dagger when he first met Pedro Nile?
That's the thing. He had the tape from Mordeth, which was even stronger than the dagger.
What? Okay. So it was just like it was almost like a radiation field. Like if you imagine like a circle around him geographically.
What Mordeth said in the Memory of Light, what he needed was a city that he could go to and just melt into the brick, and that's how he would become stronger. Because Mordeth, it wasn't the dagger that made the power; it was Mordeth that made that power. Mordeth.
So let me ask you guys: were those White Cloaks? Were they originally like White Cloak Dark Friends, or they were
Pedro Nile escort escort Patton Fane to Dane Barnhold to tell him his instructions.
And he just
he said, you remember, what did he say? He said, so you think that after Dane Barnhold slapped him because Patton Fane was trying to kill him even in the Two Rivers, and every time he on a Sally or whatever, there was always Trollocs that tried to kill him, and that was because Patton Fane was trying to kill Dane Barnhold, because he even said that it would have been way easier if Jared Beyer was running the right close than him. And that also suggests that Dane Barnhold still had a little bit of good in him, and that Beyer was already easily manipulated.
Child, yeah.
Well, I mean, if you've been called child your whole life, it's really rough.
That's a rough one.
Which is why it's just shocking why all these like rappers are calling themselves Lil.
So my thing with Fane is, again, that he is a different kind of evil. He is not under the Dark One's influence and whatnot. How does this entity nail a Myrddraal to a door without some sort of powers or intervention?
Well, he did have powers.
What was
already molded? Remember, he was molded to Mordeth, and Mordeth, the last time we saw him, he ran across a room and jumped through a keyhole or a brick hole or something, using whatever power he had. So I think that Patton Fane, from the moment
did he have that, like in the Great Hunt?
Was he like? Did he have like golem powers, kind of like golem skills?
By the time he had gone through Shadow Logoth in Book 1, Mordeth had gone through Shadow Logoth too. So that was the thing about Patton Fane. We saw him progressing from the very beginning to the very end. Something was he was changing the entire series. He was getting stronger and stronger. His powers were changing. They even talk about like some of the things that he
force of nature at the end. He was like a weather pattern.
Yeah, and he said that he's like, they're of no use to me now. He's like, just one look or touch now from him will kill them. Like Myrddraal Fades could die just by a touch from him by the end. And
let's address Matt's here. Do you think that Elida was affected by her association? And I guess Antonello was also talking with Fane.
Yes.
Were all these people affected by his corruption?
I think it was the beginning of all of their downfalls.
Was it Gwyn?
Say again?
No. I know some people have speculated that when she talks to him in the prison.
Right. She spent a lot of time with him.
You know what? That's definitely possible.
I've heard that before, because she does do some things that are pretty kind of crummy.
You're totally right. You know what? That's the one aspect. You're totally right. I agree with you.
Other people have said that, not me. That's not my original thought.
I think it's true. No, because she did spend. I mean, they took the time to say she was spending time with him.
Right.
And yeah. I mean, because you see what he did to the prisoners down there. He had to do something to her. So maybe some of that arrogance that she had was from that. I don't know. The idea that a 16-year-old girl is going to tell 300-year-old women that they don't know shit, it's kind of arrogant.
Well, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Well, and I mean, when she puts Nynaeve in her place, like, that's one of my least favorite scenes in the book, because it's pretty awful. She's doing it to get out of being caught in a lie. Like,
yeah, that's true. And I kept reading. I remember the first time I read the book, I was 100% sure Nynaeve was going to figure out that she was lying to the wise. I was sure she was, but she didn't. But I think that they had to do that for Nynaeve's character arc.
Yeah.
I think they had to put her in her place for her.
Nynaeve had to come down a peg, Egwene had to go up a peg.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Let me regress back to what I had kind of brought up before. I don't know if I got your opinions, but what do we think about an evil that the Dark One cannot touch? What is going on with that? My philosophy is that the Dark One is not the true essence of evil, that he is just a demigod. But what is your thought? Why is Machin Chin and Mashadar and Patton Fane, why do these things exist in this pattern if there is a perfect counterbalance to a creator.
Maybe going back to what Jansen said, maybe they're the white cloaks, because the white cloaks are dedicated to the light but still manage to be terrible.
Yeah.
Maybe they're that counterbalance. I don't know.
There's also,
and maybe, yeah. Go ahead.
There's also what Moraine said about Mashadar. All living, the ways are alive, and all living things have parasites.
Mhm.
So, Mashadar could have just been an offshoot of a parasite because it was made by the tainted men in the Age of Legend. The way made by the tainted guys. So,
and wasn't Machin Shin?
didn't
Shadar Logoth become what it was because it tried to fight the Dark One? Like the lore of Shadar Logoth is almost.
They tried to fight the Dark One by using his own tactics.
Yeah.
And then it got to the point where when Eridhall would come to help people were just as scared as them as they would have been from Trial of Chords.
Well,
So
Eridhall was this canonical that they were the country that was supposed to come aid Manetheren?
Yep.
Or was that just show?
And the funny thing is, the son, I believe, the prince, was the one who ended up marrying. I forgot the story. There's a whole they could make an entire offshoot series about Eridhall, and Manetheren.
Yeah. Please, me want.
Benedict Eridhall, all right.
I'd like that too, actually. But
So I think that more clearly articulates what I was trying to say about the white cloaks. The white cloaks are for the light, but are doing it wrong. To vastly oversimplify, I like your thing about Machin Shin being a parasite. A parasite can't help what it is. But with Eridhall, they're trying to fight the dark, but doing it wrong, and therefore became the monsters themselves. So, I don't know if that answers your question, Dan, but it explains it.
It's not a satisfying answer, but I accept it because it's a hard question.
Well, brother Dan, I was thinking about, so we're talking about systems. We've brought that up a lot, and Pat and Fane exists in a system, and we're talking about the system run by the Dark One, the pattern, all of it, right? So what is a counterbalance to Pat and Fane? And I think is what your question was earlier. And I wonder what that could be. I don't know if there's a one entity that's going to embody the balance. I think maybe just Rand himself leveling up to Bodhisattva Rand was enough.
Well, my question actually wasn't why there was what the counterbalance to Fane was. My question was, why is there an evil in Fane that the Dark One can't access? Why is there this evil that is outside of the Dark One if the Dark One is the entire antithesis of the creator?
Well, what I think
that's my question. Yeah, why is there this kind of rogue evil? How is this rogue evil going on?
Well, considering what the Dark One stands for, what he chooses in all his followers, and what he must probably also be, which is completely selfish. I don't think the Dark One wants another evil entity in the world. I think that he would be more offended than anything seeing this other entity out of his control taking things over. As a selfish person or a selfish entity, he would want it dead immediately, and he would want all of his followers to kill it too. I don't think he would stand for another equal around in the world other than him.
We have to assume that the pattern creates all this regardless.
Yeah. And isn't good enough at all.
And the pattern doesn't give a fuck.
No, but it is balanced.
It's balanced, but it doesn't determine good and evil. It just means this guy has to fall off a ladder and die.
Totally, but this goes, oh my God, I just mind fucked myself. This goes back all the way to the beginning of what you were talking about, Brother Dan. Oh my God.
Talk to me, Jansen. I love it.
So
Somebody get a cloth so he can wipe his brains off.
Oh my god!
It'd be like the Shroud of Jansen, and
Oh my god! So it goes back. It's a circle. Jordan did it perfectly. It is a circle. We're gonna come back. He actually made this so we could actually fuck ourselves by talking about it over and over again.
yeah. And he's laughing in his grave. Yeah.
God, I love this man. I wish I cried when he died.
Oh no, it's actually Fafo, Dan. Fucking find out.
Fucking find out.
It is.
Okay, so oh my god. All right. So yeah, this is the problem with the Wheel of Time. It's all preordained.
Yes.
Okay. I believe
That's
so.
my issue too, Jansen.
And
let's get into it, brother.
men, the Dreamwalkers, the dreamers, all the people who can see the future, they're just seeing pieces that have already happened. Down. That's
like men.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Men is seeing patterns.
It's already happened. Yeah,
Yes.
she's seeing things that's already happened.
Yes. Yes.
And that's why I love men's powers, actually, because there's and when you analyze them, and you see what they mean after the fact, of course, but like there's some things I still want to know. I'd love to read about the tumultuous love affair that Faelane had or has in the future.
Right.
That's one of the things that you talked about.
We never off screen, right?
All these Vonnegut side stories, right?
That's why I hope we can have a discussion one day about what happens after, because there is a whole lot.
I'm sure there's a lot of fan fiction that explores that.
Oh yeah, I'm sure. But we'll
do a whole series on that, Jansen.
Cool. But yeah, so do you guys think this are items? We've been talking about the humans and the people and the entities, like Mashadar and stuff. Are there objects that are evil? Now, according to the text, there are.
The sad bracelets?
Yeah, I had that thought too.
The bracelets.
Hey, just because they have seasonal affective disorder doesn't mean they're evil, brother Dan. We got to understand people who need light.
Vitamin D, get a sun lamp.
I know. Come on.
No, right. I probably should get a sun lamp.
Text saying Nynaeve said this was evil. Mm-hmm. She felt this and felt evil coming out of it.
And the dagger.
The dagger, the domination bands, and that one, which I believe are one of the rods of Dominion, one of the black bar that they found, that she said felt like pain.
Right.
Oh, you're talking about that was one of the 9 rods of Dominion.
Which I believe at least 2 of them are oath rods, because we saw 2 oath rods, but we saw a black rod that could emit pain. We saw a red rod that we have no idea what it could do. Then we saw another rod that could bend, and they never
we
had
have an idea what the red rod does, right? Wink, wink.
Jansen does not know.
Oh. I don't know.
Red rod?
Keep going, Jansen. Dan, you can't go on, Jansen. We'll get back to it.
We've seen 5 of the rods of Dominion.
Wow. Okay.
Were held by whoever had the Ring of Tamerlane. So,
what is that? What do you think that is? The Ring of Tamerlane.
That was the. Well, we don't know if it was a Terengro, but it was the ring that the first among the servants wore, which was Luce Theron's position as the dragon. So he wore the Ring of Tamerlane and was able to use all the rods of Dominion, which were all
awesome. Okay.
So I had this thought earlier.
I'm blown away. Jansen, thank you. Wow. Shelley, go.
So it's interesting because, earlier, if I'm going to be internally consistent with my logic, the choice makes it that people can't be inherently evil because they have the ability to make the choice, and it's the things they do. An object doesn't have a choice. It's created for a purpose.
Yes.
So, to me, those things are created for evil. There's not really any way to use them for good. Like, you can't use a Rod of Dominion for good. Like, I'm going to
what were they used for before? That's what we don't know.
So it's that, to me, it's like those things can be evil because they have no other purpose than to be evil. Yeah. And to me, it's like equating them with like weapons of mass destruction or, biological weapons. Like, there's no purpose other than an evil purpose with them.
And we also know that the rods that domination bands were made way before the IDOM. We know that. Because all the Forsaken knew about them, and they didn't know about the IDOM was stately created after Lothar Mantelor went, or Lothar Pendrag, whatever his name was, went to Sachet. So that was made in the Towers of Midnight. The Domination Band was known how to use by Summerhag and all the other Forsaken. So that was an evil object from the beginning, I believe.
I think you're probably right.
I mean, is it like it's not the 9 rods of Dominion that kills? It's the person wielding the 9 rods of Dominion.
We don't know what the 9 rods altogether even did.
Yeah,
there's a lot of terrain where we don't.
Sounds orgasmic.
Let me ask you. So
it sounds like Deshaun Watson was just searching that out in every massage.
Lorraine instantly knew that the dagger was evil. How did she know? Was this Aes Sedai powers?
Well, I think that Aes Sedai and warders can feel evil.
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
They have that. They wrote that about that they can feel when there's an evil presence around.
Don't warders have it more though? They can sense further, like somehow they can sense a dark friend from further away.
Well, the show says that.
Oh,
because Lorraine actually asks Lan in the very first show, "Do you think they're coming?" She defers to him on whether or not they're close or not.
And Lan's like, "I just want to go surfing, bro."
Yeah,
because he found the lambs out in Niman's field somewhere in the Dragon's Fang, all bloody and stuff. And so he has some kind of sixth sense, I guess.
Yeah, I think we see that too when Varen meets the Ogier that doesn't have a soul.
Yes,
like she can sense. So there's something about the one power that lets them sense things that aren't.
And even Moraine felt in Nome that his humanism was gone. So Aes Sedai can feel that, I guess.
I want to bring up what I would call an inherently evil act that I want you guys to respond to. There is a point where Perrin has a hostage. He's interrogating this hostage regarding his wife. I believe it's a Shido.
Yep.
And he cuts his hand off.
Yep.
Has an Aes Sedai heal it, and then says, "This will go on and on until you tell me what I want to hear." Ryan, this is the 24 moment.
He says, "There's 4 of you. I will ask you all the same question. Every time I hear a lie, somebody loses something. You have 4 chances to tell the truth." He said that.
Yeah. But didn't he say, "Hey"? Did he say heal it so I could do it again? I thought there was
immediately because he didn't want. He told him, "Tell me the truth, or you're going to. I will leave you all as beggars with no arms and no legs, or no arms and no feet, to beg with the Wetlanders." And that scared them more than anything else. Now, I don't think that was inherently evil. I think Perrin.
He did sever a hand, correct?
He did.
Okay.
But not anything less than what the Shido would have done to anyone.
Oh, well, we can't. What about evil?
Wait,
we should just have a line in the sand, right?
He had already fought the Shido twice before, and he knew what they were capable of.
Did he get actionable intelligence?
Yes, from Elias. And
then, bro, it's all good.
And from Reno.
Did he get it from the torture? Is that your question, Ryan?
Yes.
Yeah. So, like, did the torture wield anything useful? So, to me,
yes.
like this, this is abhorrent. We see. So, there's a couple of interesting things about this that are kind of moral contradictions in and of themselves. People get very iffy about the torture, but Perrin has killed many Shido in his battle. Like, so he's killed and he's done a lot of bad things, and I'm sure there are people in the battles who he's hurt and not killed who have been maimed. So like there's a moral contradiction there that I think sometimes people forget about. And then second, it's interesting because another thing we know is torture doesn't work. There's a reason there's universal conventions against it, because people will say whatever they want to say just to get you to stop. So I mean that's an area where Robert Jordan and I don't really like what he does there, is that he makes torture a thing that works. And a lot of fantasy writers do this because it is a quick way to show the desperation of the situation, add a little shock value, and move the plot along.
24.
Yeah, it's a plot.
So yeah, we're in Perrin's head, so we're able to see it. We're justification, but he does several evil acts, including killing the White Cloaks because they killed a wolf. Guess what? Wolves were considered evil. A wolf attacking a guy, you would think that's self-defense. And yet Perrin killed 2 White Cloaks. So the White Cloaks are, in my head, are justified to think that Perrin is evil.
I think you're totally right, but I also think Robert Jordan kind of wrote Perrin as a Herculean character. And I think he had to go through trials just like Hercules did to atone for that thing. Him cutting off the hand, for me, was way more of a self-growth thing, because what did he do right after he cut off the hand? He was disgusted in himself, and he never used the axe again.
And he had ED, and he never made love to Fayo.
And according
every time. Right.
And according to the prophecies of the dragon, the Wolf King had to lose the axe to build the hammer to be to start Tarmangaida.
So was the axe evil?
I wish Robert Jordan would have just done what I do with my mittens every winter and let him leave it on a bus somewhere and forget it. Same thing. Lose the axe. Oops, where'd it go? Find my axe.
I have a theory that in the show, it's going to be completely switched around, and he's not even going to make a hammer. He's going to make an axe.
Oh, goodness. I hope that didn't happen.
That's just a theory I have. I think he may, because I think an axe, especially for people who've never read the book, people who are watching a show and want that huge effect of like craziness, I think instead of him making a hammer, he's going to make the axe. And that's going to be what his weapon is in the end, I think. I think they might do that.
Wow.
But interesting. But that messes with that maybe, I don't know, because that really lines up with like Thor's arc in Marvel right now.
Exactly.
Which I don't know if I love, because he's still a Thor character.
It is called Molinaire too, I mean, yeah. So I think that they made, because I think him having the axe in the books was such a big part of his character arc, and him getting rid of it. I mean, that was a big journey for him personally, and him torturing someone with it and getting rid of it, never to use again. And then when Viren asked him, I remember even Viren is the first person to even talk about the hammer that he was going to build or make later. He said, when are you going to get rid of this for the hammer? And we didn't know at the time that it was a hammer he was supposed to build, not the one that he got in Tyr.
Right.
So I think that because there was no Master Luhan, and they still may put a Master Luhan in next season when he goes back to the Two Rivers, that's definitely something they could use as far as like production, as far as fillers for a show. I'm thinking Master Luhan and Mistress Luhan would be perfect.
I doubt it.
see, but I don't think so either.
I doubt it.
I think that axe may come back as the actual Molineer.
Mm-hmm.
Interesting. Shit, I hope not. I hope not.
And I know Marvel didn't write it first. I just can't remember enough about Norse myth to remember the axe as part of. I don't know much about it, so I don't remember if there's an axe in Norse myth. I know there's a hammer. But I don't know if there's
and Loki had the axe first in North, and Thor won it actually from him by tricking the trickster. Because Thor had trials just like Hercules and stuff like that.
It's almost like there's stories that we tell over and over again.
Oh yeah,
right. Yeah.
Because turning.
Here's, I guess, the final kind of topic that I wanted to really brush on is if we have a world that is completely predetermined, if this wheel does spin, the pattern just happen, do we blame people who are bad guys? So
I don't know if I agree with the premise that everything is predetermined. I think there are things. So here's my thing. Just because you see the future, does that mean it's predetermined?
Yeah, in Min's case, yeah.
But so Min might be seeing flashes, but there's lots of wiggle room within the pattern. And I think that's something Moraine says as well. Like there's Taviran to bring balance, but individuals still have choices within the pattern. I think if I'm understanding the cosmology that she explains.
No, I think Min sees the choices people are going to make no matter what. But I think that the pattern is such that, and they say it very eloquently at the end with Rand. Why do we keep doing things over and over again? Why? So I think there's a clear point where he says there is free will, because he says we keep doing these things over and over again because we have a chance to make it better the next time. We have a chance to try again. We have a chance. I have a chance to meet Ileana one more time or another time.
Was he right?
I don't know, but the Tinker's monologue in the show said it beautifully to me. I mean, I almost teared up when I heard her.
I definitely did.
Oh yeah, I cried at the Tinkers. I have
a
special love for the Tinkers, even though I play Roniel character.
That was like one of the most powerful monologues. I was like, and when I saw that, when it just started, I was like, I said thank you just to myself. This, I know people are saying so many things are wrong with this, but this was so right.
Yeah.
I agreed. Yeah.
It was so right.
Yeah, I agree as well. But when we have prophecy, we even have dark prophecy mentioning Isam, which when we have prophecy, we have Min's viewings, we have indications that things have to happen. Free will. Then if it doesn't, that balance happen with free will, with the lack of free will as well. You have for every Marty McFly, you need a Biff.
Yeah, because that's what Taviran actually is.
Tell me.
I know exactly what you're talking about. I love the fact that I know what you're talking about. It makes me feel old, but
nice, yeah.
That's why we have Taviran. Because the wheel knows what's going to happen, and if people's free will gets a little too crazy, it's got to throw them in to guide it back to the pattern. So,
are there Taviran of evil?
Yes, because they also have their own black book that they made. Remember, I do think that
Taviran are a product of the pattern itself.
Yeah, I would say that Ishmael is definitely a Taviran, or the opposite, the antithesis to Taviran. And there have to be the antithesis of that because it's Robert Jordan's world where everything does have an opposite.
Right. So, what do you think, Kelly?
I think Grendel's Taviran. She's not actually just using compulsion. She's just Taviran.
Oh, jeez. She just controlled her Taviranness.
Yeah.
So
she's just been like, I'm so Taviran, I'm just gonna sexy it. In the worst way. No, I think, it makes sense in the cosmology that there has to be, right? So, we don't come across them, but it just makes sense that there has to be. So
Yeah, I think you're right about Grindel. In fact, I wanted to make T-shirts saying "Compulse me."
Oh, I love that. Oh God, Jansen, I love that. I'd buy one.
Oh, I would wear it all day. I love it.
I also like it just because I do think like one of the things that the show corrected that Robert Jordan kind of made a mistake on was, not having female Tavern. Like, sure, being a little bit cheeky about that.
I think that was a very good choice.
The loophole with Tavern is that it is not a lifelong thing. It only occurs when the pattern needs it, and then it stops.
Yeah.
So my theory is that there's Tavern all over the place.
I agree with that, definitely.
Juan is able to see Tavern. That is her power. Like
There's a lot of, more than her. I mean, and Logain too.
Logan, yeah, as well. And so I think, how do you know you have this power unless there's Tavern around? I mean, you don't know.
And let's also remember Tuon resisted Tavern. So it's not like
her will.
Yeah.
Because remember, the only who else could resist compulsion and Tavern and stuff was Morghese.
Mm-hmm.
She could resist it.
Right. So I think that she became Tavern at that point as well. When she snapped out of it and walked out and went to talk to Lenny, because what happened? Suddenly Basil Gill's like, I'm going to leave my inn to come travel with you.
I agree.
I do just love the idea of her just being so stubborn, though, that she's like, fuck you, magic. I do what I want. Like, I do also love that as well.
I do like the Morghese character, I gotta say. I do like Morghese. She was the only woman who got to sleep with whoever she wanted.
Morghese is like
I want to, like
Stifler's mom.
I like
Good point.
And she didn't take shit from anybody, whatever her position was, kind of like Egwene. I like Morghese. I think she had better choices than her daughter.
Hey, let's go ahead and cast Morghese right now. Who do you think would be a great Morghese?
Ooh.
Monica Bellucci.
Monica Bellucci.
I have to Google her. I'm not great with actor and actress names.
She's good. No, she's very good. But no, I think Morghese, because you have to remember she's a mom, and they're going to have to old her up. They're going to have to make her a little bit older.
I mean, she's pretty old now, though, Monica's.
Yeah, I mean,
well, she was born in 1964, so.
Oh, that's older than me. 64? Shit. Yeah, she's Morghese material for sure.
Yeah, because let's remember, a mom, especially I think in the Wheel of Time world, people married a bit earlier there, so moms could be younger. Like I could be a mom. I'm 40, right? Like,
yeah,
I could have a daughter Elaine's age in that world.
She's got.
So I should play Morghese.
Elaine's older than Elaine, right?
Yeah, you could definitely be Morghese.
Yeah, I think Rafe should give me a call, and I'll play Morghese in the show.
Actually, Shelley, I think you would be a fantastic Morghese.
Thank you. I'm stubborn as fuck.
Not opposed to that at all.
I actually love that casting. Shelley is Morghese.
I think that's it.
And Jansen, I can see you being Talonvor right now, man.
I do not want to be Talonvor, but I would play him. I would love to play Talonvor because of his stakes.
He's very one-dimensional.
Well,
he lasts to the end.
I have an affinity.
I mean, hey, every man should.
I have a small affinity to him only because I'm married to a queen.
Heyo!
Look at that.
All right.
But no, my queen happens to be a very powerful attorney and running for Superior Court Judge of Los Angeles.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, sometimes I do feel like that.
There we go.
No, my wife is awesome. She's the greatest person I've ever met. She's a queen. And I could definitely see, I could see me playing Talonvor because of her.
Just embody your life. Yeah, you're like, oh.
Jansen, I could see you swearing oaths in a stable, cutting yourself with the sword, swearing the old oaths not just to the throne, but to Queen Morghese.
By my light and hope of salvation, it was rebirth and salvation.
And liberal democracy.
Liberal democracy. Yeah, I'd make a terrible queen. I'd immediately be like, you know what? We should give socialism a try. Do you guys feel like a democratic socialism? And
before that thing said about Nynaeve being a bad person to hang out with, I think Nynaeve would make a fantastic queen.
Oh no!
I think she'd be a mother.
I think you just heard
queen.
Dan.
I don't want Nynaeve in charge of anything.
She would cut off so many heads. Jansen.
She would keep her country so good and
Off
fight
with
for
their heads.
She would fight for Malkir. In fact, if you think about what Nynaeve would do afterwards,
Oh my god. Will my husband ride alone? Like
Nynaeve would be the head of the Yellow Aja, and she will make it. She will make, in order to be in the Yellow Aja, you will have to take an herb class.
Ryan, I think we need a poll. Would Nynaeve be a good queen?
All right.
yes and absolutely yes should be the two answers.
Yeah,
Yes.
Well, we know what your vote is.
No, Jansen, I totally agree with you. Because like I said, Nynaeve at the beginning of the books, no. But Nynaeve at the end of the books would be unbelievable. Because, she's got that stubbornness. She can make that Nynaeve at the end where she says, "What's justice?" And she gives that speech about what is justice. Like, that could have come out of Morghese's mouth.
Yeah, there's only one scene I wish happened in the book with Nynaeve. I wish that after she became, an Aes Sedai and learned, the things that she needed to learn, I wish that Catsuin said one thing too many to her. And Nynaeve made Catsuin say, "Yes, Nynaeve, you're right, I'm sorry." Because Nynaeve stood higher than Catsuin, and Catsuin's supposed to be an Aes Sedai, and Catsuin was humbled by Rand, but I think that would have made Nynaeve's character arc crazy awesome if she made Catsuin acknowledge her as her superior.
Kevin makes a great point. Kev makes a good point here. Nynaeve wouldn't be such a bully once her authority was no longer questioned.
True. So once she got her gray hair or her ageless face, she might have been a little bit different. Because that's what she wanted more than anything.
Yeah, and I can say as like a woman who's been in a room full of people who don't believe you, like I've told this story before. I sat in a meeting and I couldn't figure out why the meeting wasn't starting. And someone said, "Oh, we're waiting for Dr. my last name." And I was like, "That's me." And they, "Oh shit." Like I've been in those situations and you are furious.
Oh my God. My wife,
I
totally know what you're talking about. That's happened to me.
Yeah.
I shit you not,
Dan,
guys.
why is Shelly comes on our show? She's just lying all the time. What's happening?
I shit you not, guys. I was at a pub with
Dr.
6 men. And the head of one of the unions in Ontario came up, shook the 3 men's hand on this side, skipped me, and shook the 3 men's hand on this side. And then afterwards, when I said to all the guys at the table, I was like, "Hey, did you not see that? He skipped me and didn't shake my hand." None of them had noticed it.
No.
Like, I get why Nynaeve is furious. Like, I think that's like, I understand why.
Well, and you know what? In her defense too, from the very beginning, she was put in a position that she was very young to be in, and every single man said she shouldn't have been in it. And all the women did. There was a reason why they voted her in.
Yeah.
She was voted in. So I get that.
It's fascinating, and we'll get it. We could do a whole show on Nynaeve and a fascinating character who can only achieve a flow state in a state of rage, which is opposite of everything we know about brain and like neurochemistry and neurobiology. Like the angry we are, we're dumber and we make poor decisions. But now we have a person who's from childhood only been able to achieve the greatest states through anger. So I think that's really fascinating.
Someone is like, "I'm so mad I blacked out." It's like,
Nynaeve has made me had one scene in the books that I think was the most emotional scene I've had through And I think about like all my favorite.
Oh shit! You're gonna make me cry, Jansen. Nynaeve makes you cry all the time. Go.
Cry because of Nynaeve. And reading the book when I first read the books, and when Nynaeve, after the fight at Aldragoran's farm in Tyr, when Nynaeve went to talk to Master Algoran in the Borderlands and said, "Will my husband ride alone?" It's one of the most powerful. I mean, I'm thinking about it right now, and like that whole scene of Nynaeve after everything, and she goes there. It was when you saw real, true growth in Nynaeve, when she started becoming a real Aes Sedai, when she started like manufacturing her own shit, making sure her husband was going to have an army for the last battle.
Oh yeah.
I bawled. I have yet to read that scene and not cry.
That is the best scene ever, because you have these grown men, hardened grown men who were in Valkyrie when they were infants, and they're like, "Did you hear that? Will and I mean, and if they don't make it powerful in the show, I'm going to be pissed."
Yeah,
because that scene it grabbed my heart, and I was like, "Yes."
Every time Nynaeve rage heals anyone, I'm like bawling.
It's great.
Like I claim yellow. Like Nynaeve is my patron saint. I relate to her in so many ways. But yeah, like it's crazy. Like you just touched on the ultimate scene for her, but like every time she's like, "You won't die on my," and it always just blows my mind. And I had thought that they gave her like really a proper treatment in the show, like that healing moment when she like healed everyone in that moment. I thought gave her like it was an homage to her, right?
I just want to see how Zoe does comedy, because Nynaeve is such a comedic person in so many of the books, like so many, like the interaction with Valen and Luca. It's some of the funniest things I've ever read.
I love when she tells the Shinarans, "Do something with your swords."
Something with you.
Sitting there with a rose that's half dead, like in front of Valen Luca, and he's telling her how she's going to be.
Well, Jansen, one of the main times I got emotional doing our show recap was Nynaeve, when Rand had brought Tam up, and she was like, "There's nothing I can do," and she goes to walk away, and Rand says, "But I got here as fast as I could."
Oh my God! Don't do damn.
And she says, "I know," but then she gets mad. She says, "Don't you think I would do something if I could? I gotta go fix other people." Fuck you.
She was the most human.
Yeah,
she was very human. I mean, I think
unbelievable.
I mean, this goes far to say, but I'm a Wheel of Time fan. But I think Nynaeve is one of the greatest characters in literature, in fantasy literature, because of the way she had to grow opposite of everybody else.
She was also someone I would not want to live next door to at all.
All right, brother Dan, let's get off of that. Jansen,
all right.
Shelley. Before we wrap it up, my only point is I wish I knew more about her backstory. I wish I knew more about her childhood, her prime family, like her initial, like 0 through 17. I want to know about her, and that'd be great if we ever got that. But before we go, and this has been just an amazing show, I want to ask everyone, and let's dig deep. What do we think Robert Jordan wanted us to take away when we think about the concepts of good and evil in his world? What is Robert Jordan trying to teach us about good and evil?
Good question, right?
Thank you. And let's just wrap it up with that. And then everyone who's been watching us, we love you. Thank you so much. If we have time, we'll jump on to Discord. You going to be on Discord, Jansen?
I will not, only because I have to go to a campaign dinner for my wife.
Well, yeah, I hear that, buddy. But yeah, we'll be on Discord. Say hi, everyone.
She's running for the women's circle, guys. I got to go.
Oh, I believe you. Yeah. You are a stud. I can't believe you're with us right now. Let's just cap this show off, and let's talk about what we think Robert Jordan's message was for us. Who wants to start first? Brother Dan, do you have any thoughts?
Sure. I think that Robert Jordan's main message to us regarding good and evil is the ambiguity of it all. We have white cloaks. In my eyes, we have false dragons. We have cultures that don't seem normal to us, but seem pretty fine for others. The idea of good and evil is perspective.
Okay.
And I think that Robert Jordan kind of rides that line pretty darn well. There are obvious good and obvious evil, and there's a whole lot of Masimas and child buyers, or people who think for them to think that parent killed their dad, they're entirely justified in this stuff, and so are their actions evil. I think Robert Jordan does a good job of making that ambiguous and allowing some sort of empathy in someone who's doing otherwise evil acts.
Right on.
Great.
I think that Robert Jordan was trying to show us that even in the midst of tragedy and in the midst of like warfare, in the midst of countless things that could change histories and lives, I think that he showed that individuality of people will still show you that they're still going to fight for what they believe in, no matter what, whether it's, this guy was born to save us all, but I still want to be king.
Yeah.
I still want to be king. So I'm going to let him do that, but I'm going to take care of this town myself, because nothing about the prophecy says that he's supposed to rule. And they did say that when he met the nobles from KayK. They said that to him. So I think that he left it open for a lot of the people not just to fall in to the dragon being born and saying we all just have to follow him doing this. And this happened countless times, especially with Elida, that they were gonna have humanism, and they were gonna have their own free will and how they thought that they could still do things regardless of the imminent Armageddon that was coming.
Excellent.
Wow. Okay.
I like that a lot. Shelley, do you have
I wish we could talk more.
I think I agree with everything that's been said thus far, plus what I'm seeing in the chat. It's a lot of shades of gray. I think one thing I've always taken away from the Wheel of Time on this is the danger of absolutism. Anyone in the book who knows that they're absolutely right is never absolutely right. And I think that's just a really important message when, good and evil, all those things. Like the Shan-Chan know they're right. They're not. The White Cloaks know they're right. They're not. Elida knows she's right. They're not. And everybody who believes they're absolutely, even my girl Nynaeve, thinks she's absolutely right. And she's often not. And I think that's just like the biggest thing. And that's where a lot of the evil in the books comes from, is the complete faith in your own view of the world. So maybe that's kind of what I would take away.
Nice.
That's really well said. Oh, Ryan, kicking the music.
I don't know if let's just ride this out. Let's be mellow. No, let's say Jill G.
Norwal, thank you so much for that. That's so cool to me to hear that. You're awesome.
Thanks for being so consistent with these streams and for bringing awesome guests always. You know what, Jill G, those are the 2 points that we do try to strive for. We try to, we've been doing this for over 2 years now, trying to, we do 2 streams a week. And we're committed to this wholeheartedly, and we try to bring the most interesting guests that we can for our streams. And Shelley, you certainly fill the bill.
Hell yes.
For sure. Before I go, I want to say my takeaway. A famous psychoanalyst, philosopher, Alice Miller, wrote a book about Hitler, and she analyzed his childhood, and the the whole 0 through 5 storyline of Hitler, which might have undergirded everything that followed, right? And I've taken from that and my experiences with working with the most extreme like limits of emotional disturbances with children and adolescents, that everyone is doing the best they can at all times. And if I were to somehow magically be able to live, let's go even Simrog's. If I was gonna like magically live Simrog's life from the moment of birth to the moment of death, I think I would be doing everything Simrog does, because I believe so heartedly in those influences of our environments and our upbringing. So I think that when I look at the world at large, it's hard to judge anything, because if I lived anyone's shoes, I probably would be just doing the same thing they're doing, and I'd hope people weren't judging me. And that's what I take everywhere in life. And I'm not a chump. I don't take shit from no one, but let's be sure. But like, I forgive you later, like after I like tell you off. But in that end, like I love that. If I were to like take the culmination of all of our discussions, is that this is just a huge gray area, and Robert Jordan's an amazing writer, and he encapsulated the truth of humanity, which is that nothing's true or false, nothing's black or white. People think that they know what's going on, and they end up doing unintended consequences of harm. People who are trying to do bad may accidentally do good, and that is just the truth of life. And I love how we are just breaking the surface of it. We're at 2 hours 45 minutes in.
Yeah, really.
And we could have gone for another 3 hours. God bless you, Robert Jordan. You're an amazing human being. Jansen Lashley-Haynes, thanks for joining. Wise one, Shelley, thank you for joining.
Hold on, Jansen, what's your takeaway from all this?
My takeaway from this is that Robert Jordan, when he's genius, he did something with his life's work that he's going to have people talking about for the next 200 years. And I am so thankful that I have, I guess we'll call it a soapbox to get on and talk about it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It's part of my life. It's, you hear people talk about things, but this series of 15 books is part of my life. And I've analyzed it, I've looked at it, and it's a part of my life that I enjoy. So it's, I always say this, but I'm so happy to be here. And being able to talk about these things with like-minded people like you, amazing people, and all of you amazing people out there who are constantly sending us stuff and telling us things that you think. And I think it's awesome. Please keep saying that, you guys, because it helps make this community that much more awesome. And I'm just so happy to be here, guys. It's wonderful. And
I think it was meant to be that we hooked up. I mean, I think this is a beautiful union.
So Jansen, real quick, Jansen, is there a way that anyone who's watching could directly support you? What would be most helpful to you right now?
Check me out on IMDb. I'm constantly, on Facebook and Instagram and all those things, and I'm putting out all the new things I'm working out. I just auditioned for the new Quantum Leap, and I hope I get it. We never know. It was a great
Quantum Leap was my favorite show back in the day.
It totally was.
Scott Bakula is so handsome still.
I've met Scott Bakula before out here in LA, and he's a great guy. And I know that he has a lot into this. He's not going to be the star, but I know he's going to be on a couple of episodes. And I would just hope that I can get on it. I'm, like I said, I'm always humble, always trying. My ultimate goal is to get in this series of the Wheel of Time in any aspect. So, even if I'm, an innkeeper he wants, I'm happy just to be part of this, because this is so much of my life. I wake up and think about my friends in the books. So, that sounds weird, but
That is our goal, Jansen. Our goal is for you to get on this series at some point. I'm going to. I don't have many contacts, but I'm going to hit people who do have contacts and just be like, "Hey, man, let's check it out," and send them your IMDb. Your hustle is so admirable. This guy's going to 4 to 6 auditions a week. He's an active actor. I mean, this shit is like this. This is like what's not to admire about like your drive and what you want. And so, yeah, I mean, this is what we want to do. We want to get you on the show. So
that's the road to the spear. Yeah. It's the road to the spear, and I'm in it.
I love it. Yes,
I love it, man. I'm going to say my takeaway as far as evil and good in this world is that when you have a predetermined wheel and pattern, it's hard to, I think that people are born into roles. And I think that this includes quote good and quote evil. I think that dark friends are dark friends because the pattern told them to be. I don't think they necessarily had a choice in this matter. This is what they had to do. Based on cosmic genetics or whatever we call it. And good and evil kind of, I think within this context, when you have a dragon that comes every 7 ages and has to have this battle, I think that you need 2 sides and you have to kind of organize that into the pattern. So I don't blame anyone who's evil here. I think that they had no choice.
Well said. All right.
Hot take.
Yeah. Have at it, guys. Dan will not judge you.
No. Tell me I'm wrong. Prove me wrong. Shelly, thank you so much for joining us. I have so much respect for you. Every time that we've interacted,
much love. Much love.
I've just felt much love as well.
Aw, thank you. I love you guys.
Yeah, so what do you want to promote right now? What's going on with you?
So I am on a weekly talk show called Threefold Talk, where 4 Aiel and 1 Wetlander do a cultural exchange. We call it our Stabby Chaotic Love Show. Our fans are called Foldies. Several of them are in the chat, so I see you all. I love
Yay!
Dan often pops into our chat as well, so it's nice to see him there. And Jansen, we would love to have your wife on the show. She sounds phenomenal.
She is.
Yeah, basically, we talk about Wheel of Time news, and we shoot the shit, and we play games, and we try to have a guest on every once in a while. And last week we discussed balls for an hour. So, it's the exact opposite of what happened here. And then I run a segment called Ask the Wise One. So you can send in real life advice, so real life problems, and I'll give you Aiel based advice to those real life problems.
And you're like the Aiel Dear Abby?
Yes, basically.
That's good. You're like,
I'm going to talk to my wife and get her on that show. For sure.
I want her on here too. I want to meet her.
Has she read the book, Jansen?
No shade to you, Jansen, but we always love having like amazing women on the show.
Exactly. No, I know. No, I got that, and I want her to go on, not me. I want her. Yeah, I get that.
Amazing
women. I think your wife and my wife would get along just fine.
Can I be at that party, please?
Grace.
I joined that book club.
Amazing. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. We are, this has been the Tavern Talk.
What's that, Ryan? All right, cut. Try. 3, 2, 1, go.
And thank you, humans on all the spectrums, for joining us. I got tripped up on the ladies and gentlemen thing. God damn it, I'm going to get better at this. We've enjoyed talking about ladies. Try again. 3, 2, 1.
3, 2, 1, go.
Humans on all the spectrums, thank you for watching tonight. Tune in next week as we will discuss more Wheel of Time themed everything. And
all right, 3, 2.
Dan, you do. Take it away, Dan.
All right, 3, 2, 1, go. Guys, this is Tavern Talk. We are the way of the Leaf. Thank you for joining us. We're here every Sunday at 7 p.m. Eastern to talk all things rumors, theories, and spoilers things. We also on Tuesday have a first-time reader show that is a spoiler-free show. We are currently on the Fires of Heaven, talking chapters 20 through 23 this week.
Yeah.
We have a Patreon, we have a Discord, we have Twitter, we have a Facebook. This is the best way to kind of jump on the train that is the puppet, whatever.
Oh, you were doing so good. 3, 2, 1.
So thank you, Shelly. Thank you for coming. I love you. You have much G. You have much G, right? You have G.
You got it
that
right.
means, like credit.
Honor.
Credit is that G?
It's like Pokebugs or something.
So full of G that it's like spilling out of your hat. I mean, your G is like you're drowning in G.
I'd have toe if I said too much about my G. So thank you.
That is true.
Good
and
point.
You got the red hair too. Like you definitely
Right?
look like you were here.
You guys are beautiful. Jan, we will see you next. Oh, not next. Oh, maybe next week. We are doing Watchnary next week.
Okay.
And we are getting guests. Jansen, maybe I would love for you to actually play with us if you're free.
I would love to. Just give me a call.
Yeah, we'll talk about it.
Schedule.
Yeah, Jansen is with us all the time now, guys, and it I don't want to be graphic, but it arouses me a little bit. This concept of this,
but a little bit is the only appropriate word for that, Dan.
a little bit, but yeah, a lot bit.
Yeah,
So-
just a little puppet bit.
Guys, thank you for joining us, Ryan. What's our sign off? That's
Oh
Ryan.
yeah. Hey, we love you. We're proud of you, and run for your lives. This is the way.